companies can offer huge rebates and giveaways when you use their services or buy their products. By overcharging you in the first place, that's how. Five Ash Roofing doesn't operate that way. It's misleading and dishonest. When I provide a customer with the best products and the best service possible and do it at a fair price, why would I need gimmicks to sell it? Best products, best warranties, and best service possible. That's all we offer. Well, that and financing. Five Ash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Five Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
It's not too early to start planning for spring at Family Leisure. New pools are starting at $19.99, spas starting at $21.99, and swim spas now only $99.99. Five-piece patio furniture starts at only $799. Pool chemicals, toys, accessories, and more up to 20% off. Mention this ad, you'll get free delivery and 1 month of chemicals with your spa purchase. Start your spring planning now at Family Leisure, Whitten Road and I-40, where family and fun come together.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they're the right hire. Indeed will also give you this sticky frog, which will suddenly leap and stick to the face of the perfect hire. Okay, there's no sticky frog. But skills tests, that's a for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Visit Indeed.com/promo today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM, 96.1, and 87.7 FM, as well as online around the world at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere on your phone or tablet by downloading the Sports 56 app, and at home, tell Alexa or Google to play Sports 56. If it's happening in the world of sports, we've got it covered. Wherever you are, stay tuned to Real Sports Talk. Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7. We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. It's time for Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. The first hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here are your hosts, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, and Brett Stats Norsworthy.
Welcome in on a Friday, the first full week in a different world.
Hadn't it been?
It has. The mayor spoke today, and I watched part of that press conference. He basically said there are 2 paths we could take. We could go the way of Italy, or we could go the way of South Korea. Italy, if you don't know, has over a third of the fatalities on that coronavirus dashboard. A third of the world's fatalities, more than China in Italy, because they didn't take it seriously before. Whereas in South Korea, it's limited because they took it seriously and they flattened their curve. So the mayor was pretty well to the point, I thought, this morning. Welcome in. We've got a busy show for you. We'll try to do a little bit of sports. That's still here. We'll update you on what is going on at 3:30 as we normally do. We want to try to keep some normalcy about us. Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet in Las Vegas will join us, and that is a very quiet place right now. At 3:45, there is sporting news today for sure. What we knew yesterday became official today. Tom Brady is going to be a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I also have to tell you, this is the greatest stat that I give to you, Brett, also known as Stats.
Okay, Dave. You'll be Dave. Stats Woloshin.
There you go.
I'll be Brett Boat Norsworthy today. You
I like that? There's alliteration in that.
Okay.
If Tom Brady were to lose...
both nicknames from the common denominator.
Right. If Tom Brady were to lose 283 consecutive games,
wow, that's a lot of losses.
As the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he would still have a better record collectively than the entire Tampa Bay organization since its history.
That's funny. Boy, they have been bad. They had the Super Bowl winning year. Since that, only 2 playoff appearances, both in the wild card, both losses. Only 5 winning seasons since the Super Bowl.
We're going to talk to TJ Reeves at 3:45. I think he told me this, Dad. I'm sure he'll tell it again. I'm stealing it. He's probably listening or watching us on the stream. But I think he said that if the Bucs had 30 straight years of 10 wins, they would still not make 500.
Wow, man! But you know the great elixir, the bomb, holding that Lombardi Trophy one time.
Yeah.
One time.
That's why we say, a championship is worth whatever you got to do in order to get it.
Heck yeah. 51 years
It's
since
like
Joe Willie and the Jets.
Isn't it like what we were saying about the Houston Astros? Hate to bring up a sore point, but they got their championship.
They did, Dave. They did. And warts and all, it's a lot of scuff marks on that commissioner trophy.
Yeah. So a lot of people, rightfully so, are fretting. They're depressed. And I get it.
Concerned, worried.
Well,
it's a lot of
when
things.
Kevin Kane says 40,000 people in the hospitality industry in Memphis, in the metro region here, are going to lose their jobs for some period of time, that's reason for depression. When restaurants, and I counted up today, there are over 30 restaurants, I think it was 34, that have just closed. They're not even trying to do the to-go stuff. Now, that's in Mississippi. That's everywhere. 34 restaurants. That is depressing. There are no places to really go if you are a religious person, if you're spiritual in any regard, no organized religion, because really all the churches, the synagogues, the mosques have been shuttered. And so we thought it might be interesting to find out any alternatives for those of you who want some comfort spiritually that way. And the Faith reporter, for a long time for the Commercial Appeal, now for the Memphian, he just put up a new story, which I probably will not have time to read, but he's going to join us at 4 o'clock.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't know David at all, and I've read every word he's written. It's Commercial Appeal. I did for years, and looking forward to it. And I told you the first thing I'm going to ask him, Dave, and it's been that give and take that we've all had. After 9/11, wave of patriotism, wave of going back to your place of worship, whatever flavor that was, wave of Americana. We can't this time. This is not one to rally around anything. It's quite the opposite. It's don't go anywhere. Stay home. Stay inside. Don't get around a gathering of 2 or more.
Basically, as I think the mayor said this, let's meet together separately.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
And it's one of my favorite verses from the good book, Bible verses from the good book, wherever 2 or more are gathered, I am there. I always said that was the barroom prayer. I did. Yeah. Even in the heyday of doing and I joke, but I mean it sincerely. I do like that scripture, wherever 2 or more are gathered, I am there. And we're getting down to that. We're getting down to,
or as the album, and I think it was Dave Mason, I'm not 100% certain, but the album titled Alone Together.
Uh-huh.
And that's
Faithfully.
That's what we'll have to be.
That was the next lyric, wasn't it?
That was a song.
Okay.
That was a song. Who did that song?
I don't know.
I think that was about the death of a parent. But anyway, at 4:30, Peter Edmiston on his weekly visit with us, and we'll chat about what alternatives there may be for the NBA if indeed we get to some normalcy a couple of months down the road. Our agent, Andy Schiffman in Chicago, he will join us from the Windy City, and he'll give us an update on exactly what his players are doing. Yesterday we saw the news. They closed all the practice facilities. So if John Morant wanted to go shoot hoops today at FedEx Forum, he can't. In fact, he can't even go to a community center. Well, all the gyms are now closed, so he wouldn't have had that.
I hear Mike Miller's got a great home gym.
Mike Miller does. I was just going to say, Mike Miller is the only guy I know who had a beautiful
like
home
David
gym.
Waters. I don't know Mike Miller, and I've never seen that gym, but I hear it's great.
I've heard it too. I've never seen it. So Andy Schiffman will join us at 5. we got crunch time at the end of the day, and so it will go.
Yeah, we will go 1 week, day 8. Hard to believe a week ago yesterday on Thursday, still golf balls in the air at the Players' Championship at Ponte Vedra. Boy, that feels like a million years ago. And now the bigger news around the country, sports-wise, it's Tom Brady. And we've laughed at each other, talking to each other a couple of times today. Just colorful history with the Buccaneers, with John McKay as their first coach. He coached his last game as a college coach for the USC Trojans right here in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, a 20-0 win over a great Texas A&M team, and then went to work for Hugh Culverhouse and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Hugh Culverhouse, one of the foremost tax attorneys in the country, owned them. And the business school at Alabama is the Culverhouse School of Business, and the joke went that he loved Bama so much, more than he actually did the Buccaneers, he took Ray Perkins off Bama's hands. He took Tampa Bay Ray to the Buccaneers, where Alabama could go get a real coach.
Well, my favorite Tampa Bay
unfortunately, they got Bill Curry.
is their first one, John McKay, whose teams were so bad in the very beginning. He was asked one time, it's my favorite Tampa Bay story. His team was in a post-game press conference after this team got shut out. He was asked, "So, Coach, what do you think about the execution of your offense?" And he said, "I'm all for it."
And he very colorful, and those first few Buccaneers teams bad through the years. 26 double-digit loss years for the Buccaneers. I don't think they'll have that this year. But you got them in the playoffs?
No.
It's a tough division, and a sneaky, quiet, hated division. That NFC South, it's no love lost at all. All four.
Although, you know what? They played some games last year where they were on the verge of victory.
Jameis cost them.
And Winston threw picks. That won't happen this year. And Bruce Arians is, I think, one of those, he's not Bill Belichick, but he's kind of a special coach. He's a little different, and he's a 180 from Bill Belichick, which is, I think,
he's a hard guy, but he's a fun guy. Belichick is just hard. But he's not fun.
That's another reason why I think Brady decided to go this route. He took a guy who's, at least from what I can see from the outside, he's a 180 from the way Belichick is.
Yeah, I like Bruce Arians. Do not know him well, been around him very little, but the times I have, I like him. And I have said, in the cussing Hall of Fame, his bust is in the lobby. He cannot say good. He can't carry on a conversation around anybody's parents, any mixed company, and I mean the big ones. He just can't help himself. And it's why when he was on television, he was great. He did. But I said, you can't be quick enough to the 7-second delay with him. He can't help it. Good morning. Yeah. He's got to have a little something to it.
As long as we're talking a little bit of NFL, yesterday the news was that Todd Gurley had gotten cut by the Rams. He ends up at the Falcons.
25 years old, Todd Gurley.
I know. Young guy.
Your knees are better, but
maybe, and he's already lasted longer than the average running back in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Atlanta paid him, to be honest with you. I don't think it was the kind of money he was going to be getting from the Rams. But the point I want to make up is, at this point, at least on the depth chart, isn't Darrell Henderson their starting running back?
We think so. Yeah.
As of right now, yeah. Unless they make other moves, which they probably will.
You could be in a lot worse shape. I think he'll be fine.
I think Darrell Henderson just needed a year to grasp all of the complexities of the Sean McVay playbook. Mm-hmm. I really believe that he's a little behind in that regard because it's not that easy, and he's coming in, and it took him a while.
Any pro offense is more complicated than the most complicated college offense.
So the bottom line is I think they'll give him a chance because we know he has the physical tools to be incredible. So a good chance for Darrell Henderson now to really make his way in the National Football League. And honestly, toward the end of the year, I think in Dallas, Pollard was a guy they felt like they could count on.
I think you can.
So really good stuff. And Kenny Gainwell is next after another year. Or I guess that would be it.
And somebody we probably don't know is it just keeps producing more and more ball handling, great offensive players.
If we have football. If indeed we have football. One note, by the way, Anthony Edwards today decided he would enter the NBA draft.
I'm stunned.
If we've got a draft. Well, he said he's going to be number one. Based on what I saw, I watched the guy 3 or 4 times this year. One time up close and personal. There is no way I would take him over James Wiseman.
Even if the need is more his proclivity?
You know what? If you're taking the number one guy, do you
need a lot?
You just take the best guy.
I agree. I'd take Wiseman too.
And there's no way I would take Anthony Edwards over Wiseman. I would take. I don't know about Hampton and Ball. I'm not sure I wouldn't take Cole before him, kid from North Carolina. I'm not sure, based on what I saw at the end, Cole Anthony. I know Precious is going anywhere from 16 to 25, but based on what I saw in the 3 games or so and the one up close and personal, I'm not sure he's a better pro than Precious Achiuwa.
You know what's really sad?
Precious can defend.
I saw James Wiseman and Anthony Edwards in person the same number of times.
That is sad. That is sad. I got to see James 3 times as often.
Just one for me, and I loved him. This hour brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis, 2600 Ridgeway, and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Give them a call at 901-362-8833. Lexus of Memphis offering the Golden Opportunity Spring Sales Event. March and April and May. Great offers on all 2020 models and special lease options. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by at Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving in style. Lexus of Memphis, the high standards in the industry. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design that makes for the luxury driving experience. 901-362-8833. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, according to the coronavirus dashboard, which we all refer to daily now, we're up to 256,176 confirmed cases, 10,593 fatalities. In this country, 15,888 confirmed, 206 deceased, 154 in Tennessee. Thank God, no fatalities as of yet. In Shelby County, we are holding at 10. 81, however, being monitored at the moment. As we mentioned, the mayor had his press conference today, and he said 2 paths are out there for us, Italy or South Korea. Italy, they did not take it seriously enough early, and the fatalities are over a third of the world's. South Korea, they were very serious about it. They took the test from the World Health Organization, so they were the most tested, but they also stayed inside, and they were proactive, and their path much different than Italy's. Bars, restaurants, gyms, now movie theaters all across, not just the Malco theaters, every one of them across the metro area are closed. Tennis centers are closed. There will be an outdoor market where Laughlin Yards is every Saturday now. They'll make sure they have food from 10 to 6 for sale, so they're not running out of supplies. This is done by the restaurant group that owns Laughlin Yard. I just thought I would pass that along, especially if you live downtown. Germantown's Mayor Mike Palazzolo declared a state of emergency about 11 o'clock this morning. Mississippi's now up to 80 cases in the state of coronavirus. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. 34 of our area restaurants have now been closed.
Just shocking. 233 deaths total in the United States. Is that what you have?
206.
200. I'm seeing a site that says 233, but 206, 230.
I looked at that earlier in the day, so that could very well be the case right now.
Oh man, it is quite a time. I'm gonna go with sports. Tom Brady, top story for me, makes it official. Can't wait till he says it's not about the money. Of course it's about the money. That's the biggest reason. It's the biggest driver. He wanted to finally be paid like one of the top quarterbacks. He had always taken the haircut, worked the deal to help the team out, but now he's a Buccaneer. Can't wait till he says he's always dreamed of being a Buccaneer. It feels like they always have to do that at every press conference. And what do the Buccaneers do to welcome Tom Brady to town to their fans? Raise ticket prices 15%.
Wow. In this pandemic?
Yep.
They've actually raised ticket prices?
No, supply and demand at work. Yeah, I know all about supply and demand. They have something now a lot of people want to see. But first thing you do, the first order of business is raise ticket prices. I think is bad form across sports. I'll name other names. SEC, my Cardinals, anything. Grizzlies, anywhere across sports. You better have a recognition of yourself. You better have an awareness of yourself, because you're going to need somebody to go to those games when we come out of this mess.
Well, we did. We mentioned this yesterday, but it's a theme that I think is deserving of being repeated. And that is, when we get through all of this, I don't think it's going to be the same.
No, it can't be. David just simply can't be.
I can't imagine that the prices that we see for terrible seats can be the same.
It just can't be.
I can't believe that the prices that you pay for concessions, and I understand how everybody gets a cut, so in order to make business, you have to up the price. But they're going to have to rethink that model, because it's ridiculous that you pay $9 for a beer. Or remember when they first opened, I think it was, I actually think it might have been the Pyramid and not even FedEx Forum. But I can remember a guy who used to sit in this seat in this studio with us went on a rampage when they were charging $5 for bottled water, and that was 15 years ago. Those sort of models are going to have to be all rethought, because they probably aren't going to work when we return to some form of normalcy. So many people are going to be financially hurt, and to me, it's not going to be, I hope it is. I hope that market shoots right back, which, by the way, it's down 500 points again today. I hope it shoots right back up the same sort of ascension curve that it went on the descent. But
it'll take a while
for people are saying
Main Street
3 to 5 years, and so I hope sports leagues take that into account, and there will be new negotiated TV rights in all this time. I can't imagine how there are going to be title sponsors that are willing to pay the kinds of money that they have paid for naming rights of games, of stadiums,
and Dave, going forward,
when they've lost employees.
And going forward, there feels like, just like out of the car bailout in 2008, that there's going to be an equity partnership with the federal government. So let's say the federal government indeed bails out the casinos in Las Vegas. Some of the biggest bloodsuckers that ever existed, but nobody made you go. Nobody made you go, but you knew if you went, they were going to get that paddle out and wear you out with it. We're going to bail the casinos out. That will be, conceptually, our money, the taxpayers'
Correct.
money. We're not going to get a piece of the pie. It's going to go to the big federal treasury pot. Then can those casino operators buy all the skyboxes at the new Raiders games? Are we going to bankroll for them to go out and live the big life again?
Well, have you seen the model of that? Because I did read with a great deal of amazement that all of a sudden, if there is a bailout, that the federal government now owns a percentage of your business. And how will that work? Once the loans are paid back, are you still an owner, or is that your payoff? We haven't seen the total working model on that yet, but that is.
You think they have one?
Interesting. I think there's a lot of thinking out loud going on right now.
Not top story of the day.
It's not like it's a bad story. It's an interesting story, but it's not a headline. But how about this? The Grizzlies are going to replay selected games on Fox Sports with Pete and Brevin and Rob. And they start tomorrow at 7:30 with a game where John Morant had his first triple-double. I think there was like 7 or 8 games that they are going to replay at various times. Look, Fox is trying to get as much of their sponsorship money as they can. And
need programming.
I don't blame them. They need programming.
I don't blame him at all. My not top story, Darius Slay, all together now. Who's he? Says he lost all respect for Matt Patricia. Wonder why he lost respect for Matt Patricia. Because Matt Patricia keeps that pencil over his ear and never one time reaches for it and makes any notes. It was a great college or NFL countdown special on him. He keeps a magic marker around his chest and he makes notes during the game. The pencil. It's just for show.
Did you read the Slay story? Honestly,
I did.
It makes Patricia look bad.
Well, it does, because you know what? Any coach that's a hard you-know-what looks bad these days. And Darius Slay wasn't used to that. And guess who else is not used to that? One of the biggest loser franchises ever, the Detroit Lions.
Bottom line is this, though. He picked on the guy who was a 3-time Pro Bowler. And then, because there was such a bad relationship, the Detroit Lions, who can ill afford to lose good players, have had to ship him away for lower round draft picks. To me, if I'm the Fords, I'm looking at Patricia after I read this.
I'm not. I'm looking at Matt Patricia, and I'm telling him, you keep doing what you're doing, and we're going to try to stay with you, because to send a message to the best player on the team that you're going to be held accountable, then you know the worker bee has to be.
But that isn't the way I saw that portrayal. I saw that portrayal as being a humiliating sort of thing, and I hate to say it, but most of the players that were, of course, you're only getting a select few, but the players that the writer interviewed in this certainly sided
sure.
with
they all
player.
went crying to the writer, and the Lions have won so much. They have such high standards.
Well, you're to me, your road is not a very good one if you're throwing out the good guys because you can't get along with them.
But it hadn't worked any other way with the Lions.
Yeah. Let's see. This will be the third year for Patricia, right?
That's always a big year.
Yep. And those are your top and your not top stories. Bruce Marshall from Vegas, he's coming your way in a minute. We're sitting here in the Family Leisure Studios, and again, pool starting at $19.99. The chemicals, the toys, the accessories, 20% off if you buy right now during this sale. They've had it for a couple of months. Of course, it won't last either. You look outside, you see all the spring. We're going to turn to summer here pretty quickly. Spas starting at $21.99. The big swim spas starting at under $10,000. The patio furniture, 5-piece sets started under $800. Maintenance-free poly furniture, cool stuff. That's 20% off. Mention us, and it goes down for free with delivery. How about that? And a month of chemicals with your spa purchase. Just say Sports 56. We're back in a minute. To Vegas we go. Our friend from the Gold Sheet, Bruce Marshall, is next on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Take Sports 56 with you on your phone or tablet. Download our official Sports 56 app today.
Hey everybody, this is Coach Penny Hardaway. There's a comfort in being home, and to me, comfort food and family makes Memphis the place to be, along with having the best basketball fans in America. I like pulling into Corky's and getting one of their family party packs. How can you go wrong with pork, beans, slaw, sauce, and buns for only $5.99 a person? It is so easy. I can call ahead, order online, or just pop in. Tailgating can't get any easier. Tell them Penny sent you.
Encore flavor, Corky's barbecue.
If you need glass replaced, there's only one name you need to know: Benswanger Glass, the largest full-service glass company in the U.S. They've been an industry leader for over 125 years. For all your residential, commercial, or auto glass needs, Benswanger Glass is the name you need to know. 24-hour emergency service for all commercial customers, plus a nationwide warranty on all professionally installed glass. Visit Benswanger Glass in Midtown, located at 340 South Hollywood, across from the Liberty Bowl. Visit their website, benswangerglass.com. Benswanger Glass.
I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company. The coronavirus situation is causing a lot of cancellation of events, schools, concerts, sporting events, and all kind of social gatherings. It's called social distancing. But you do not have to be distant mentally from everyone in the community, because Flynn Broadcasting is with you. We love you. We want to make sure that you are connected and protected from the coronavirus. So keep listening to this Flynn Broadcasting station. We'll keep you informed, we'll keep you in touch, and we'll keep you connected to your friends. So as soon as this situation is over, we can go back to our normal living. I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company, saying we love our community, we love you as individuals, and we are committed to your well-being.
Got something you want to get off your chest?
You better have a backup plan.
Want to join the conversation?
Someone needs to tell him he has to grow up.
Join us on the First Bank phone lines at 360-8255 or the First Bank text line at 67129. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
We like to party.
Welcome back into the Family Leisure Studios. Wolo and Stats with you. I don't know what they're doing in Las Vegas. I know everything is kind of closed down. Again,
Sin City's quiet city like everywhere.
We heard that over the last couple of weeks in the hospitality business, which includes hotels and casinos and everything else, 1 million people have lost their jobs for a period of time. It is an incredible story. To Vegas we go. Our golden man from the Gold Sheet, that would be Bruce Marshall, joins us now, and it has to be rather depressing there. It is here, but I would imagine with an economy built the way Vegas is
on consuming,
on
excess.
Tourism and hotels and casinos, that it has to be just deflating.
Oh yeah, I mean the Strip is like a ghost town now, and this economy locally here, and I would think Orlando might be facing some of the same things too, but it's so dependent upon tourism, and then here the extra thing with the casinos too, but that's all. Yeah, that they turned the spigot off that now, but it's not going to turn back on full steam for I don't know how long, and when it does come back, it's going to be kind of reduced. So there's going to be major contractions here, and they can talk about. There's talking about some bailouts for the casino and hotel industry, but still, I mean, the people who work are going to need something more direct than that, or who aren't working right now. And this place is going to have a lot. It's going to be a while before this place comes back. And I guess the same could be said for any tourist-oriented place. Orlando's got problems as well.
And, Bruce, you could throw a dart and hit 1,000 right answers on how the most cruel aspect of this. But one of the more cruel aspects of it is, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago even, but for sure 5 weeks ago, it was one of the great economies of any of our lifetimes. I mean, it was $2 gasoline and 29,000 Dow and socking money away and letting the good times roll, and in a blink of an eye, it's over.
Well, yeah, it was. It's over, and and there's some. I understand what's going on right now, but if, like I've been telling you, if we're going to be forced to shut things down, then some other things, the government better make some accommodations elsewhere. You can't keep charging people. Some utility companies are making some adjustments, mortgages, auto payments, and all that, but you can't expect people to keep paying bills if you tell them they can't work unless there's going to be some sort of help, and that's got to come immediate. So you can understand the health thing, but there's a second part of this that I don't think has been properly addressed. Great story in the Wall Street Journal yesterday about what's going on right now, and a lot of people I thought rethinking the coronavirus shutdown. I want to sound. It's just something everybody ought to read. I mean, Senator Corker just retweeted that out, and a lot of people have. So it's, I think, something a lot of people ought to read.
In the meantime, no games, and everybody's shut down. What is? I guess you're doing a lot of history stuff and things of that. I mean, one of the craziest
Turkish
things.
Soccer.
Yeah, Turkish soccer.
We're playing in Turkey still,
Yeah.
so we can watch Turkish soccer. No, I mean, a lot of what we're doing here, and I do some stuff. I do some podcasts for Bookmaker and things. I mean, NFL, thankfully, has continued here. So for many of the shows I do around the country and for all these Bookmaker podcasts now, we've switched over to just NFL stuff to talk about. And so that at least, the NFL, the one thing about the NFL now, it's still proceeding on a somewhat normal pattern here, as it would this time of year. The free agency gave a nice diversion this week and has allowed people to talk about things. I'll be writing about some stuff draft preview and things like that will be coming up. It's given me more time to work on some book things and all, but no, we're not publishing here for a while, and everybody in my business, until they start playing games again, won't be doing anything for a bit because there's nothing to write about. There's no games to bet on. The sportsbook industry also, I mean, you wonder if whenever it comes back, if a lot of people are going to still have, that's like right at the top of discretionary income for a lot of people, and that may take a long time to get back to those sorts of levels where people are going to be, people who normally bet are going to be betting at least in those amounts or again. So there will be a ripple effect that will hit the sports books as well.
Bruce, in Las Vegas, first, what's the completion of the stadium? And then once the stadium is moved into by the Las Vegas Raiders, they had to be very dependent on a lot of those places that are now shut to buy suites and skyboxes and a big tranche of season tickets.
Well, yes, you're right, Brett, and they're still thinking that will all happen. They're getting close to putting the finishing touches on this stadium. If you drove by it right now, it looks completed from the outside. It's not quite yet inside. If you're flying over it a couple weeks ago, you could tell they're still working inside, and they've got this translucent roof that they're trying to get finished, and that's sort of added another 6 months. But that would, at the outset, they knew that was going to take a little longer to get the roof put on it. That is going to be a big deal when the stadium gets open. Tentatively, we'll see how this goes. I think the first event in there was supposed to be a soccer exhibition match, and that might have been Manchester United or Man City or Real Madrid or somebody in late July or early August. We'll see how that goes. The Raiders were not slated to come in there until sometime in preseason. They haven't released the preseason schedule yet, but that was the thought. But they're on course to finish the place, but and there's hope that everything is calmed down to somewhat normal by the time we get into the summer, but remains to be seen.
I'm with you. You know, at this point, and we asked this because Memphis has a $200+ million convention center that is being redone, totally remodeled, and it is going to be state of the art and really cool. And we had a tourism guy on yesterday because, honestly, I mean, Memphis's tourism now is a whole lot different than it used to be. In fact, in the last 30 years, I'll give you a number. I'm going to use this later, but 20,000 industrial jobs in the last 30 years were lost, but 25,000 hospitality jobs were picked up. And so the convention center is a big deal for all of us. And I asked if that construction would still be on time. And basically they said construction has not yet slowed down, which would be your stadium too. But you got to wonder with the way everything is going, because there's always a trickle-down effect. And there's businesses that you don't think that are in the path here that are going to lose people or revenue streams or something that will make them falter. So I don't know that everything will get done on time the way everybody thinks.
Yeah, you're right, Dave. I mean, it kind of reminds me sort of, back in 08, 09, I mean, there were some construction things that were going on then that had to stop, flat when the meltdown happened in late 08. In Vegas, there was one hotel, there were two hotels right near the finish line. One was called the M, and it was right there on the very southern end of the strip, right as you come in on I-15, which was really about a couple months away from opening. They went ahead and finished that, and there was the City Center, which was also very close to be finishing. That's where the Aria and the Cosmopolitan are at, not too far from where the arena is. And they finished that, but those were right at the end. There were some other projects that were not quite at the finish, which they never finished, including one very big hotel that's sitting there. What was going to be called the Fountain Blue, and it never got finished. And it's been sitting there 60 stories. Nothing's been happening for 12 years. Carl Icahn bought it and everything. So I think it depends on how close they are to finishing some of these things. I don't think right now you'd see a starting thing for a while. It's from scratch. What I'm a little worried about, there's going to be a lot of people after this who are going to be wondering about the wisdom of even having conventions and getting people together, the social distancing. You're going to have guys like Dr. Fauci telling people don't get together for a long time. And you shouldn't be doing that. Once we get to a point, at least I think so, you're destroying another industry there. And there's people who set up conventions, who do things. There's a whole another level of worker there who might not actually be at the convention, but they prep these places for conventions, and that's a big part of the Las Vegas workforce too. The people who ready convention sites and build out the floor space and things like that. And that business, certainly for the moment, is done. But I would hope it comes back because there's a lot of people in that industry who'd be out of work too.
We can't really, forecast. I've said, and I thought when I first made this statement about a week ago, that I was being really conservative when I said, you know what? I don't think we'll have games again, pro sports, any sports, until the 4th of July weekend, that 1st of July. And now, you're seeing this, and you just mentioned the doctor and what his advice may be. We've got to follow what he says. He's certainly a lot more knowledgeable than we are, and he wants to err on the side of caution, and I don't blame him for that. But I'm not sure that we'll see sports by then. We may not see sports till fall. We may lose a baseball season. Does that cross your mind? Any of the people that you talk with, do you think that that's a possibility?
Yeah, I think so. And it's possible. I think there's other people who are thinking once this thing, if this thing slows, and maybe if they can make some breakthroughs in the treatments and things, there's a difference between a vaccine and treatments for this thing. And,
a cure.
And cure. I mean, you can people still get it, and you can treat them, which is we would take that right now. But so that could change the dynamic rather quickly. What I think a best case would be at some point in May, this thing starts to tamp down. This is just my own opinion. And the thing about crowds would still be in effect for a while longer. But the sports leagues might be encouraged then, go ahead and play if you want, and play without crowds for a while. And we'll see if the leagues would do it or not. They might. I think the NBA and NHL are very much at risk right now. They could come back, and I think they would take coming back at the start of June and play through June and July and then get finished. Baseball I'm not sure what baseball would do. And then we'll see that, how it affects football into the fall, but that's still several months down the road. But I don't think under any, by June, at best case, they might start playing again with no people. That's just my own thought in a couple of those sports if they chose to go that way. And that'll be a decision to be made. The Olympics also, they're holding off on any decision on that, but that is looking more and more unlikely. And that's, in July. I remember the last time they had a Tokyo Olympics, it was in October. They don't seem to do Summer Olympics in the fall anymore, but in '64, it was in October. They had the Tokyo Olympics. This year is supposed to be in July.
That's before the NFL became huge and college football became as big as it is in this country. I would suspect that we'll see a postponement for a year of the Tokyo Olympic Games. That would be my bet if I were a betting man. Bruce Marshall, how do we still at this point get more of you?
Well, we'll be putting some stuff up there at goldsheet.com, some stories, and I'll have the NFL draft pretty soon. I'll be wrapping up college hoop season. I did put up a bracket, how I thought the tournament would have looked, and the story that would have ran in the sheet had we had one. I still put it up on the website on Sunday, and I'll be dribbling a few things in there for the next couple of weeks. Also on VEASAN, I might be putting some stuff up there, NFL draft. We'll be starting to talk about that more as we get into April. There will be NFL stuff to talk about, and if there is, I'll have it up there at goldsheet.com.
We always appreciate
Thank
you,
you,
Bruce.
Bruce.
Talk to you next week.
Be
God
well.
willing.
Okay, guys, you too.
That is our friend in Las Vegas from the Gold Sheet, Bruce Marshall, brought to you in part by Supercuts, 15 locations now. You know that. Still got to get haircuts, still got to look good, even if it's for the person that you are isolated with. My goodness, we still have to practice good hygiene and good appearances, and this is the place to go. Supercuts.com to find the location nearest to you. And don't forget, every haircut ends with the hot towel finish. That leaves you invigorated, and it leaves you relaxed all at the same time. Lord knows we need relaxation in these hard times. Supercuts.com. When you walk out, you're going to look good. That makes you feel good, I promise. Back in a minute, we will head to Tampa. We'll talk with a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, our friend TJ Reeves, on the signing of Tom Brady.
He's liberated. He can talk.
He's next on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy get you through the midday with Sports 56 Middays. Delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 till 1 on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
Folks, we are just months away from a frightening presidential election. The stock market is up and down like a yo-yo. On top of that, the world is trying to contain coronavirus. All of it makes you want to stay home. Well, if you stay home, you got to have food. This is why you need a Harvest Right home freeze dryer. You might not be able to control world events. You can control how you prepare for the future. I'm here to tell you about a new product that can make your life better each and every day. It's one that just might save your life. It's that Harvest Right freeze dryer. It lets you preserve your favorite foods in the comfort and convenience of your own home. With this affordable home appliance, you can easily create your own emergency food supply. Plus, you can freeze dry camping meals, pet food, healthy snacks, and so much more. It's a healthier, more cost-effective solution for you and your family. I mean, what would you rather? Have that prepackaged garbage, or would you rather have food that you made at home, freeze-dried and ready to go? Enjoy the freedom, flexibility, and peace of mind that comes with owning your very own home freeze dryer today. Learn more at harvestright.com. That is harvestright.com. harvestright.com.
Hilo Commercial Services can help protect your workplace and employees. Call Hilo Commercial Services today to help mitigate the dangerous effects of the coronavirus and the flu virus. Hilo offers complete deep cleaning and sanitizing services for schools, churches, medical facilities, office buildings, residential, warehouses, and more, all customized to your needs. Put safety first with Hilo Commercial Services. Call Philip right now at 901-277-6733. 901-277-6733. It's time for Hilo Commercial Services.
Yeah, so Aiden's coffee spot is really undope. They asked what they can get me, and I'm like, the code to the bathroom. Stop trying to sell me something.
No matter how hard you work for your small business, online reviewers will find something to complain about.
Also, the Wi-Fi password was too hard to spell, and I can, totally spell stuff.
And while Progressive can't save you from these trolls, we can help you save money on commercial auto and business insurance.
They didn't have any cups out for the free cream, so I just drank it out of the pitcher.
Get a quote online today at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliated and third-party insurers.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
What I'm saying is, this is the anthem. Throw all your hands up, yell at the field.
Welcome back in. You just heard the announcer man talk about our sponsor. And I haven't really had a chance to say this yet. We're going to bring TJ Reeves in, but I want to thank all the sponsors that have stuck with us.
We sure do.
We know these are really tough times. We understand business isn't what it was a week and a half ago. All you have to do is look at the stock market to see a third of our holdings, in a lot of cases, gone. So I truly appreciate everyone who's a title sponsor, who's a small sponsor, just from me and from Brett, how much we appreciate you sticking with us in these times. So let's go to Tampa, a guy with a big smile on his face. That would have to be TJ Reeves.
Go Bucks, go.
You've got a quarterback now that hopefully will be a winner. I mean, he's such a good quarterback that he could lose 286 straight games and still have a better record than your entire team's history.
Well, first of all, it's good to be with you, and we're now officially official, and I'm sticking with you guys. As soon as Tom Brady was on social media this morning with the Instagram post and the picture of signing the contract, I contacted you guys and said, okay, now it's official. Now if you want me, we can talk. So I'm glad we were able to squeeze something in here on a Friday. And no one is minimizing the seriousness of what's going on, but we need distractions. That's what sports is, and you guys have been preaching that all week and doing a great job on your show. This is a healthy, welcome distraction right now because everybody down here that's a sports fan is buzzing about this, even though there's not going to be a press conference with him holding up a jersey, at least not anytime soon, guys. This is as big a deal, maybe the biggest deal that they've had in a free agency move. It's got to be right there with John Gruden being acquired from the Oakland Raiders in the trade, coach for draft picks and money, which was 2002 that happened. This is the biggest deal since then, and it may be the biggest deal ever in terms of a free agency. It's not a Super Bowl win, but in terms of who you're acquiring, it does not get much bigger than that.
Why, TJ, do you think Tom Brady picked you guys and Bruce Arians?
I think what you just said, who you just said, had a lot to do with it. And Bruce Arians, now it can be told a little bit. He'll come out and talk about this at some point. It's easy to say after the fact. Bruce Arians was very confident behind the scenes to multiple people that I talked to in the building, not talking directly to him, and even people outside of the building that he had talked to that kind of, the word got around. He was very confident that if Brady is available, we've got as good a chance as anybody, a real chance to lure him to this situation. And I think the second component is this team is ready to win, especially offensively. The weapons he has here are better than what New England has, hands down. They're better than what the L.A. Chargers had to offer as well. And we saw today that Melvin Gordon has departed as a free agent at running back. They've got one good receiver in Keenan Allen, but, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the two tight ends, you see what would appeal to a lot of quarterbacks to come here, and I don't think we can overstate that Arians had a key role and a team ready to win was another part of it.
TJ, for the Buccaneers, we know what that deal with John Gruden turned into. It turned into holding the Lombardi Trophy. Is that the goal? Boom, Lombardi Trophy or bust?
I think you set that as the goal. I think you have that expectation, as crazy as it sounds. You're talking about 10 losing seasons in the last 12 years, no playoff appearances in the last 12 years, but you now have an expectation. This is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. You have talent all over both sides of the ball. How do you put it together and become immediately a contender? You get somebody like this. And I've done a couple of these already today, all over the country. I had my buddy Rob Dibble, who you guys remember. Dibs is doing radio up in Connecticut on the ESPN station up there, and he started talking to me about leadership and in the clubhouse in baseball or in the locker room. This guy's going to command that locker room, and they are going to follow him. They understand that this is a guy that has been the blueprint to repeated success, and so you have to believe the younger players are going to gravitate to him. And it's going to turn into a lot like what Denver became with Peyton Manning. I remember we were on the show talking so much back a few years ago about Peyton Manning going to the Broncos. Who wouldn't listen to him? Who wouldn't want to follow him with all the success he had had? It's a very similar thing right here for a starved team and a starved area that wants to win again.
They're going to have to do it quick, right? This was only a 2-year deal from what I gathered?
That is apparently what it is. I don't know if there is an option year or not, but apparently it is, hey, he can be a free agent again in a couple of years. You cannot franchise tag him at the end of the 2 years. All of that was agreed to. Because, again, if you're the Bucs, you're taking the home run swing here. You're taking your cut with 2 strikes here, trying to get the big hit, the home run, to cross over sports. So you're willing to go along with that. You're willing to, and understanding he's 43 years old. How many more years can you do this, and can you do it healthy? So, yeah, they're going to push everything into the middle of the table here figuratively and go after it this year and 2021. And if that's it, if it's only 2 years, well, at least you had that. At least you had the opportunity to be a contender, hopefully, for both of those years and maybe get into that big game again. And we're all anxious to see. It's going to kind of go in order. What is that schedule going to look like? Typically, the NFL usually releases the schedule right before the draft. It may be delayed because of everything that's going on. It may not. I don't know. I don't have any insight there. But you're going to see the Bucs in standalone national TV games repeatedly now because of Brady's presence. I would not be surprised if you see them on national TV 3 or 4 times this year on Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. And especially if the Bucs are good, NBC will probably flex the Buccaneers into the Sunday night game when they're playing teams, if it's not already scheduled, like Kansas City or the New York Giants or the Green Bay Packers. Those are some of the teams that are on the schedule. You may be seeing those all over the country, including in Memphis.
TJ, you mentioned Brett Favre, and you mentioned that Brady could free agent again, and Brett Favre did. He went Packers, Jets, then Minnesota, but he wasn't trying to do it at 43, 44, and 45. Tom Brady, that's George Blanda range, and Tom Brady can't kick extra points.
Okay, you want a quick story? The Bucs, you talk about the what might have been Buccaneers. They tried to hire Bill Parcells twice, including the Glazers. The current ownership group couldn't get him hired. The Glazers believed 20 years ago that they had a real shot at talking Dan Marino to come play for them for 1 year back when Marino wanted to retire and his Dolphin contract was up. And Marino's even talked about this, that he contemplated it. They talked to him about it. He didn't do it. In the Favre case, they were in on the trade. Gruden and Bruce Allen, the GM, were in on the trade, but Green Bay didn't trade him here. They traded him to the Jets instead. As the legend goes, Favre believed that he was coming to Tampa Bay because he had his cleats and his pads and everything from the Green Bay locker room shipped to Tampa. And then the Tampa equipment guys had to ship it to New York. So there have been what might have been moments for the Bucs, but now you get the official signing here of Brady. It's as big a deal as you can imagine, and it's got everybody amped up to go get tickets and see what happens. But, yeah, I mean, there have been – I mean, Joe Montana's another one. But, again, Montana was traded by the 49ers to the Chiefs, but Montana immediately had them in contention for the AFC championship. He was coming off of elbow surgery, so you wonder. You compare it to Peyton Manning, you compare it to Favre, who had them an eyelash from the Super Bowl in an overtime game at the Superdome with the Minnesota Vikings. So there is a real expectation here, guys, of this move being made and what it can mean.
I would take the chance for sure. I don't blame Bruce Arians. I don't blame the Glazers by any means. The only thing that scares me is when it ends quickly. And all you have to do, and I know he won that Super Bowl that second year, but he was not the same guy at the end of the second year in Denver that he was at the beginning of the year. It just like went boom. Of course, he had injuries that Tom Brady, I don't think, has. But at 43, man, you are rolling the dice. But if he is that guy, I guess the last thing that I want to ask you is, and you may not know because you're just going to meet this guy, but do you think he decided to leave New England, or did New England say, we love you, you had 20 great years here, but you can go make a whole bunch of money 2 years from now, for 2 years from somebody else. We think you should do that, and, of course, you'll always be part of the family. How do you think that thing transpired?
I always believed he was going to stay in New England, so I was proven wrong on that one, and I think it's totally his call. I think if he still wanted to be a Patriot, he would be a Patriot, and they would have found a way to pay him, work it out. And I don't think it's about the money as much anymore as maybe he needed a fresh start, and maybe it was going to be good for him and good for the Patriots to say, let's try to do this with someone else somewhere else for both of them. And again, ultimately, here, he's made so much money. I can't fathom that was the main driving force. Hey, I can't make as much in New England. They asked me to take less last year. I think this is more about Arians being able to pull the right lever here, push the right button on come here, we're ready to win, you're a conquering hero. Not unlike what Elway was able to say to Peyton Manning, come back to Denver, make us a Super Bowl champion again, and it worked out there. We'll see what happens here, but I don't think it was money motivated, Wolo. I really don't. I think if he wanted to be in New England, he would be in New England. He didn't want to be there anymore, and that's why he's in Tampa Bay now.
Well, and some speculate, there's the motivation because we've heard a lot of speculation talk shows. That's what we've been doing for most of our lives here. So the thing is, who could survive without who better? Is it Belichick or is it Brady? And
BB or TB?
Now we're going to get a sense of it.
Well, and in fairness, the year that he got hurt with the torn ACL, everybody immediately thought, my hands up included, they're in big trouble. They won 10 games that year with Matt Castle, who nobody had heard of in 2008. They missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker, but they won 10 games that year. He has won games in small pockets, including with Brady being suspended back a couple of years ago for the whole Deflategate thing. He's won games in pockets here and there. Now we are going to find out how much can New England win in the short term without him. I can assure you of this. Brady's got a much better chance with the weapons he has of having better success here in the 2020 immediate season than New England trying to break in a new quarterback for their system with what they have to work with currently. That's just on paper. Let's see what it looks like in the fall.
Best rumor I heard in that regard, Andrew Luck to the Patriots. TJ Reeves, stay healthy.
Don't rule anything out.
No, I don't.
Don't rule anything out.
In the way this world is today.
Tom Brady in Tampa Bay a week ago.
Nobody.
Here it is.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you, TJ.
Officially.
Talk to you next week, my friend.
Have a great weekend, guys. Always great to be with you. I look forward to talking to you next week.
Stay healthy. TJ Reeves, our friend down in Tampa. We hear the music. We've got to take the time out. Back on the other side, we'll try to reassure you a little bit. The writer of faith David Waters, many years with the Commercial Appeal, now with the Daily and Memphian. He's written a couple of articles already about the coronavirus and local clergy. If you are spiritual or you're lost at the moment, maybe we can find some solace for you in just a minute. On Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Hey, sports fans, you already know about the great steaks at the Butcher Shop Steakhouse, a Memphis tradition since 1981. They specialize in hand-cut aged beef right over that hickory charcoal. But did you know the Butcher Shop also has great seafood items, from fresh Atlantic salmon with dill sauce, pan-seared red snapper with sautéed shrimp and Cajun cream sauce, Canadian cold water lobster tails, crab stuffed shrimp, homemade lump crab cakes, and a whole lot more. Oh, and don't forget the Fresh Burger Fridays for only $8.95. Come in, enjoy a fantastic dinner at the Butcher Shop. You call the Butcher Shop at 901-757-4244, or you can visit the website at butchershop.com.
From now until March 29th, the Butcher Shop is offering curbside to-go orders and giving 10% off for all guests who use this service. The Butcher Shop, 107 South Germantown Parkway in Cordova, 901-757-4244.
You'll see the dedication in every single step. You'll see it in the smiles when smiles are hard to get. You'll see it in the little things that add up to success. The caring and passion are the things that we love best.
Wolf Chase Limb Brace is your Mid-South provider for orthotics and prosthetics. They are an ABC accredited facility and their practitioners are ABC certified. At Wolf Chase Limb Brace, their services include artificial limbs, legs and arms, braces of all kinds, and custom molded inserts. You can call them today at 901-507-7821 for their location on Highway 64 in between Germantown Parkway and Appling Road, or visit them at their new location in Jackson, Tennessee. That number is 731-660-5900, or visit them on the web at wolfchaselimbembrace.com.
Our life to yours. Wolf Chase Limb and Brace.
Tiger Hoops fans have something extra to look forward to this coming March. Not only is it tournament time, but it's the opening of the Tiger Hoops exhibit at the Pink Palace Museum.
After Finch's two-pointer, Ronnie Robinson sank the shot that once again brought the two teams into a tie.
Come to the Pink Palace Museum this March and experience 100-plus years of Tiger men's and women's basketball, from their beginnings as the West Tennessee State Normal School to the present.
The Tigers are very much alive.
Don't miss the Tiger Hoops exhibit at the Pink Palace Museum, opening March 7th.
Hi, this is Rob Brown. Join Pete Cordelli and me Saturdays 8 to 9 a.m. for Sidelines here on Sports 56 WHBQ, 87.7 FM and 96.1. We'll cover the Memphis Tigers, the SEC, and your favorite team. Give us a call. That's Sidelines, Saturday mornings 8 to 9 a.m. Sidelines is presented by Duncan Williams Asset Management. So get up and give us a call.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshyn and Brett Norsworthy.
Welcome back in on the middle hour of our first Friday after the World Lost Sports. different world. There is no question about that. Since I came on the show, and as the top stories, I went over the world. I mean,
it's a big place, I hear.
It is so stunning what we are seeing now when it comes to these numbers. So when we came on the air today around the world, there were 256,000 confirmed cases. Now there's 2,070, almost 270,000, 71,000. We're talking, since we've come in the last 3 hours or less, 15,000 more cases. 10,593 fatalities when I first looked. Now we're at 11,365. It is absolutely just stunning. The
countries, just almost everyone now.
Well, it was when we looked at this. 2 days ago we were checking out the countries. There was 165. Now there's 172 out of the 195.
Even Liechtenstein, tiny nation of Liechtenstein.
Tennessee now with 228 cases. Thank God, no fatalities. We are still holding in the city of Memphis, in the county of Shelby. We are still at 10, and hopefully we will stay that way.
The Isle of Man has 1 case. How unlucky is that person in the Isle of Man?
Today at 11 o'clock, the Germantown mayor, Mike Palazzolo, called for a state of emergency for his suburban city. We told you Jim Strickland had his press conference today and basically said we have 2 paths we could go. Italy, and if you look at Italy, they have 4,000 deaths. That's the most of any country, 4,032 out of 11,365. China, which had almost double the cases, has less fatalities at 3,248. South Korea, only 94 fatalities, 8,652. Italy with 47,000, South Korea with 8,600. They both got it at about the same time. One went one path, the other went the other path. And Jim Strickland, our mayor, pointed that out today, basically saying follow social isolation, social distancing. I've gone through 34 restaurants closed. We've talked about all the lost jobs. And with that comes, I guess, serious spiritual depression.
Despair.
That's the best way I can put it. Now, as of yesterday, the mayor asked for all the churches, the synagogues, and the mosques to close. We thought we would bring in somebody. Maybe he can enlighten us as to if you are looking for something or somewhere to go spiritually, what you can do. The guy who has been the faith writer in the city of Memphis, first with the Commercial Appeal forever and now with the Daily Memphian, that is David Waters. Thank you for giving us so much of your time today. And what are you hearing as you are writing? I know you've just written an article, and I didn't have a chance to really read it. I read the one that you had posted last night. What's the number one thing that you're hearing from people in regards to faith and getting us through this time?
Well, first of all, hi, Dave. Hi, Brett. Thanks for having me on. I've been listening to you guys for a long time.
I've been reading you forever. Fan. I'm a big fan of yours, David. I said earlier, I don't know you. I've never met you, and I've read you, shall we say, religiously through the years.
Well, thanks. Well, I appreciate that. You know, when you called yesterday, Dave, I was kind of hoping you wanted to talk to me about the Church of Baseball.
Yeah,
we'd love to.
We'll do that another time. How's that?
Another time. Well, first of all, let me correct one thing. The cases in Shelby County are now, the identified infections are now up to 30.
Wow.
And I think that's more than anything else, that kind of increase is and it's going to keep going. It's just a factor of more testing being available. And in fact, the county health department and the city is going to open a drive-through testing station very soon, maybe tomorrow or maybe sometime this weekend. So I think you're going to see the numbers rise exponentially. I don't think there's any way to avoid that, but I think a lot of that is just because we're now able to test more people, and so now more people are going to be identified as having the virus. So I think that's the first thing. And I think that it's really important, not just for the houses of worship to be involved in this, but everybody. And what I'm hearing from a lot of the pastors and a lot of the clergy leaders this week is that they are sort of coming to grips this week with the need, the dire need. The number one priority is to stop the spread. That's what happened in South Korea. That's what happened in other places. That's what did not happen in Italy. The first priority for everyone is to be as socially isolated and distant as possible and to stop having large gatherings. You just have to do that. And so I think a lot of the clergy are sort of coming to grips with that this week, and they've met and they've been talking all week. They've been talking to the mayor, the health department. They've been talking to each other. And they're going to close their services starting this week. Just about every house of worship is now closing its doors or going to be closing its doors this weekend and indefinitely for the next few weeks.
And it's so very sad, David, because it's such a routine for so many people like me. Heck, I need it. Somebody asked me one time, Brett, why always at church? I said, because I'm a sorry sinner. I need it. I need it for my soul. And so many older people's routine that sadly is the kind of the target of this COVID-19, but it is necessary. I do like the wave of people doing it online where you can still watch it. And I would beg somebody that if they suspect a neighbor or a friend that's older that may not be very technologically sound, help them, because it is a big part to older people's routine to be at a faith gathering.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just think about how difficult this decision is for everybody, restaurants and everybody else, but especially for houses of worship and clergy leaders. If there's one place you should be able to go in times of crisis and emergency, it ought to be a house of worship and prayer. And I think the initial reluctance to close worship services was for just that reason. These are things that people need to get through. We need to be together to worship, to pray, to help each other, support each other through these times. And traditionally, even during times of war and Great Depression and 9/11 and everything else, that is where we've gone. And it's been rare for that option to be cut off. But now it's just essential. And there are other reasons, too. If you think about one of the functions of churches and houses of worship in a society, and especially in places like Memphis, is not just to provide places for people to go and fellowship and worship and pray, but to kind of help manage a community's fear. And also sort of the flip side of that is to show faith in the face of fear, to get together. And I think that's how we sort of confront our challenges in this community especially. We do that through faith, by showing faith in each other, by showing faith in our God. And to not have that option, at least in person, I think we're all still in shock. I think we're all still trying to figure out how to deal with that. Now, the clergy, to their credit, I think they're doing as much as they possibly can. They're opening up their sanctuaries to try to figure this out and to try to help people stay together in some form of community. We talk a lot about social media and how it's a community online. Well, we're going to put that to the test this weekend, especially, and see what kind of community we can build online. I think the main form that most churches are using and have used in recent months and years is Facebook Live. So if you have any access to Facebook at all, or if your kids do, your grandkids, help you hook up to Facebook Live. Your house of worship, more likely than not, is going to be on Facebook Live this weekend. And if your particular church or place of worship is not, you're going to be able to find one that is.
I'm amazed at how much internet religion from every kind of denomination is there. I will tell you that Temple Israel, of which I am a member, has had their services, their Sabbath services, of course, their High Holy services, on the internet for at least the last 7 or 8 years. And yeah. I'm imagining that the bigger churches or mosques in this market all have done the same. It's funny, but I was going to ask you as we started this thing, what is the percentage of churches in this city or any of the religions, how many are online that can be streamed?
Well, I don't know that anybody's been able to count that, and I'm not sure you could, but I would suspect that at least half of congregations and probably a majority of clergy are on Facebook Live in some way. They're opening Facebook or Twitter to, prayers and brief little messages that they send out to their congregants every week. They've been doing that for a long time. I think what's different now is that they're trying to find ways to make sure that this is accessible to everybody. And, that's one of the challenges is that, places like Temple Israel, Bellevue Baptist, Hope Presbyterian, they've been doing this for a long time. They've got the technology,
Right.
They've got the staff, they've got this all figured out. It's the smaller congregations, and especially those in rural areas and in urban high poverty areas where they don't have the capability or haven't figured this out yet. That's going to be the challenge. And so one of the cool things that's happened this week is Scott Morris at Church Health held a virtual meeting online, Facebook Live, with about 250 clergy leaders from across the community, all faiths. And they started talking about ways that the larger churches and the more resourced congregations can help the smaller ones make this work. And so now they're developing partnerships online. They're hooking each other up across this virtual space. Like, for example, Christ United Methodist Church, which has been doing this for a long, long time. They're reaching out to smaller United Methodist congregations to help them out and so on. So I think we're going to be able to ramp up pretty quick. Nobody hopes this happens for a long time, but, in the long run, this could actually help because, a lot of churches are dealing with shut-ins always, and they're dealing with folks who are, for health reasons or other reasons, not able to physically go to worship services anyway, even in normal times. So I think this actually, in the long run, could help just about everybody find a way to worship.
David, you referenced it, and I talked about it earlier. After 9/11 on Tuesday, September 11th, then that next Sunday, every pew in the country was packed, and flags flying, and we sought solace and refuge with that. We can't do that this time. There's not that, air quotes here, enemy. Well, the enemy's the virus, but we had the bogeyman after 9/11. We had the hijackers. We had the guy we could hold, UBL, Osama bin Laden, we could hold up as the bad guy. There's not that, but I do wish, even though we're not supposed to gather and congregate, I wish maybe a week from Sunday or a weekday at some designated time around the country, church bells ring, car horns honk at a designated time, just to have a rallying point for everyone in this, because we don't seem to have a rally point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure you remember this, Brett, but after 9/11 happened on a Tuesday morning. And by noon that Tuesday, it wasn't just the following weekend, by noon that Tuesday, churches were opening the doors to worshipers and people who just wanted to pray, just wanted to go someplace and pray. And it was like that all week. And it is so unbelievably rare for this kind of thing to happen. I think the last time it happened for any large number of worshiping areas, that was back 100 years ago during the flu epidemic in 1918. And believe it or not, Bishop Mason, who founded the Church of God in Christ, actually canceled the Holy Convocation that year to try to prevent the spread of the flu. And Memphis did such a great job. The Daily Memphian just had a piece about this by Wayne Dowdy from the library. Memphis and Memphis churches and social structures just did such a great job of shutting down 100 years ago during that flu epidemic that we had an incredibly low number of deaths by that flu in this community. And I think that's the hope this time, is that we have done this soon enough, and it's going to be done quickly enough and broadly enough that it's going to have a major impact on slowing the spread, or at least flattening the infection curve, as they call it.
I'm into that. It strikes me, both have said this different ways, but in the past we have identified when we're hurting. We are spiritually hurting or mentally hurting, whatever it may be, and we can gather because we don't have anything that we can spread to somebody else. You can't touch somebody and they're grieving. And so we need that company in those regards. In this, you just can't do that. And I was curious. This struck me in my mind that part of the reason they've decided they were going to close all these is because the target of this disease, or the most scary part of it, is people who are 60 and above. And it seems to me, and I think I read this in your column, one of yours, that the majority of worshipers are of an older age. Do you know those demographics? Like, how many that are more faithful are over? I mean, this, to me, there's always been a correlation. The closer you get to death, the more faithful and believing you become. So I am very curious about that.
No, that's absolutely true, and it's not just for Christians and churches. It's true across the board for all faiths. A majority of folks, and it varies depending on the denomination and the faith and the region, but a majority of folks who attend worship on a regular basis in this country are over the age of 60. That has not always been true, but it's been more and more true as baby boomers have aged. Baby boomer generation is sort of the last generation where a majority of folks are attending worship on a regular basis. And so, that's one of the points that Scott Morris made a couple of days ago with the clergy. When you're talking about this disease and the spread of it and who's most vulnerable, it is people over 60 who have other health-related issues. And you're just describing a majority of the folks who attend church. And so it's especially incumbent upon clergy leaders to recognize that and to take action as quickly as they can to try to help their own parishioners.
As we enter, and you just said, when we went on the air today, there were 10 cases. Now there's 30. It's tripled in the last few hours as more and more people are finding out. And we have come to this spike where we are transmitting the disease from within our own county. So it makes sense that this is now starting to occur in bigger numbers. And as you've done your research here, has there been any advice, something that would assure you, that made you feel better, that you've gotten from any of the clergy?
Well, I think the most hopeful thing I heard this week and saw this week was how there is all of a sudden so much interfaith cooperation going on across this community. At this meeting the other day, you not only had Scott Morris and Micah Greenstein of Temple Israel and Stacy Spencer of New Direction, but you had guys like Steve Gaines of Bellevue Baptist, and you had the imam from Memphis Islamic Center, and just a wide range of folks involved in this, and everybody is sort of operating now on the same page. And I think that is remarkable, considering the sort of polarized society we have been operating in the past few years. And if anything, if there's any kind of silver lining, or maybe there are more than one silver lining in this pandemic, it's that what Steve Gaines said the other day at the meeting, the Bellevue Baptist Church said, this is now a time where we've got to put all of that aside. We've got to stop arguing and bickering with each other politically and otherwise, put all that aside, and just work together to deal with this thing right now, because everybody's affected and everybody needs to cooperate and work on this.
He's David Waters. You read him in the Daily Memphian now. Stay healthy.
It was reassuring listening to you.
We need your assurance every day, so please stay healthy.
Real quick, David, you mentioned baseball. Who's your team?
Well, I'm sorry to say, Brett, it's the Cleveland Indians.
Well, you need to be faithful if you're a Cleveland fan.
Yes, I learned have faith a long
That's
time.
right,
I'm a long-suffering fan.
That's right.
It wasn't that bad a couple of years ago. You played the Cubs.
That's right, David.
Come on.
Yeah, well, let's not get into that.
I won't.
It should have gone another way.
I said several years ago that the Cleveland won it with a player manager in Lou Boudreau, and the last time they'd won it before that was with a player manager with Trish Speaker. Maybe they need to have Vizquel be the player manager, and they win it again with him.
Yeah, I'm all for that. In fact, you're absolutely right, and I think that could make Frankie Lindor. Although I love Tito Francona, he's a great guy and a great manager. But if he needs to hang it up, let's bring in Frankie Lindor and let him be the manager.
That's
player.
it. There you go. Keep it running. David,
thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That is David Waters.
That was reassuring just listening to him, wasn't it?
It was. There's no doubt about that. We'll get back into sports here in just 1 minute. We will be joined by Peter Edmiston, and we'll talk a little bit about the NBA and the possibilities that they might have. I don't think we've talked to him since the commissioner talked about this diversion game. We'll see what his sense of all of that is. I'll let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Group. So here's two giants in this local region in the insurance business. You know about Matt Eflin. I've been talking about him for over a year now. Then there's Britt Linder. He and his family, well, they've been around since 1955. So you combine these two groups, and they're still called the Eflin Insurance Group. We got 300 years of combined insurance experience going back all the way to 55. And they specialize in home, auto, umbrella, small to mid-sized commercial accounts. We're talking personal and business. Not many agencies do that. These guys do, and they do it well. It's all about their service-first agency approach. They'll sit down with you. They'll evaluate you one-on-one, and they'll listen if it's about your family. Health insurance, life insurance, how many kids have you got, what's the most important thing, and they find you the product that will make you feel secure. Same with business, they'll forecast out years. What's the most important thing? And they find the product. If you would like that sense of security, please call these numbers, 757-2315, 757-2315, or if you're a Tiger fan, 386-GER. They did that just for you. 386-4777. That's the number for the Eflin Insurance Group. We take the quick time out right back here in just a minute. Peter Edmiston will join us on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7.
So this time of the year, Humdinger's is the place to go for Lent. We offer salmon, tilapia, swahi, rainbow trout, mahi, crab cakes, ahi tuna, anything you need, including our shrimp and grits. You can get any of those with our fish toppings, and you can also get them blackened with pineapple salsa, piri-piri mushroom, black bean corn salsa. Humdinger's is also in the wedding business. We are doing catering for weddings, any social events, any corporate events. You can dial our hotline at 901-260-8292.
I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company. The coronavirus situation is causing a lot of cancellation of events, schools, concerts, sporting events, and all kind of social gatherings. It's called social distancing. But you do not have to be distant mentally from everyone in the community because Flynn Broadcasting is with you. We love you. We want to make sure that you are connected and protected from the coronavirus. So keep listening to this Flynn Broadcasting station. We'll keep you informed, we'll keep you in touch, and we'll keep you connected to your friends. So as soon as this situation is over, we can go back to our normal living. I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting Company saying we love our community, we love you as individuals, and we are committed to your well-being.
And now, a page from the Diary of Flo.
Dear Diary, the ghost is back. This house is protected through Progressive, but that doesn't mean it's not haunted. How else would you explain that radiator-like clanking sound? Or the moon-colored light in the hallway that's gone by morning? Maybe he never bundled home and auto, and he's doomed to suffer an eternity without the savings.
Save an average of 17% on car insurance when you bundle home and auto through Progressive.
What was that wind-like sound? Oh, right, the wind.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Got something you want to get off your chest?
You better have a backup plan.
Want to join the conversation?
Someone needs to tell him he has to grow up.
Join us on the First Bank phone lines at 360-8255 or the First Bank text line at 67129. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Cruising through halfway our Friday edition of Sports Time on Sports 56. You got Wolo, you got Stats. That was just delightful talking to David Waters. And we hope, honestly, that if some of you are worried, fearful, looking for connection, go to that Facebook. And I meant to ask him at the very end how you would go to Facebook to look where your church might be. There's got to be a way to do that.
It does.
Or your synagogue.
And if all else fails, hit a knee.
There you go. In the meantime, Peter Edmiston joins us now in these crazy, crazy times. How are you and your family faring, my friend?
Hey, Peter.
Oh, everybody's doing all right. Everybody's doing okay. I think everybody's kind of in a little bit of a state of shock at how quickly all this has kind of unfolded over the course of the last few weeks, and that we are kind of in the situation that we find ourselves in. A total change, but within that, everybody's kind of holding up as best they can.
And for me, I think it is really very interesting and very telling to a certain degree. It was the league that you cover the closest, that you write about the most, the NBA, that really the tipping point came. It was Rudy Gobert that we'll remember, but it's really the decision that was made by the commissioner of the NBA when he basically said, we're stopping sports, and every other league went forth with that. And Adam Silver's proclamation basically said to America, this is serious. And we started to really believe.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's hard because you can you have this sort of sliding scale of economics and public health, and you have to consider where things lie on that scale. But there's certainly an argument to be made that he should have acted sooner, and that a lot of people should have acted sooner. Now, there's no question that his reaction and what he did was the catalyst when it happened. Now, the other question is just because it does seem as though in the NBA there's a lot. There's 14 cases of COVID-19 and potentially maybe more.
Well, how many teams now? We know Utah, Brooklyn, Nuggets, Sixers, Lakers. Anybody else?
Celtics. You got Marcus
Celtics.
Smart.
Marcus Smart. Yeah, I forgot. That's 6 teams right there.
Nets. So you've got that 14, and then there are potentially others that are out there. So I don't know, and I don't know if it's just because testing has been more prevalent in the NBA, which is potentially that's a whole different controversy in its own right.
Yep.
Maybe that's part of the issue right there. But it does show you how quickly things can turn. And, there's no way. I know Rudy Gobert understandably took a lot of flack, and rightly so, for his irresponsibility at the beginning of this thing. But there's no way it was Rudy Gobert that spread it as far and wide. This thing is extremely potent. And, I talked about it last week, and with you guys, I've talked about it all week on the show. It's very frustrating to me that our messaging has not been more consistent across the board, because, while you're sitting here and, you got to worry about, families, and I've got young kids. I've got, a dad who's in his 80s now. I've got to worry about all that stuff. If I'm being responsible and, taking care of myself and keeping myself, quarantined, and you're keeping yourself quarantined, everyone's kind of keeping themselves isolated. We're all sacrificing, tons of folks sacrificing economically, job-wise, everything else. And then you got a bunch of people that go and get together, and a bunch of dummies that run to the beach and run to restaurants and run to wherever. And that could be worship services. I mean, that we just can't you can't undo this stuff. There's too many people that are sacrificing too much right now to help slow this thing down. And it's frustrating when so many folks just can't give up that little something and go run right back out into it. Well, it took one person. If you look up patient 31 in South Korea, look up patient 31. They had this thing at 30, and they were looking pretty good, relatively in control. And patient 31 goes to a buffet, and next thing you know, it's up to 1,000.
Wow.
I mean, it just takes one.
Yeah.
It's one person. So that's my frustration with a lot of this stuff.
Peter, you mentioned how quickly this swarmed on us. There were warning lights, some heeded, some didn't. But 10 nights ago, we were together at FedEx Forum, and you, to me privately, after a Grizzlies official had already said the same thing, you said to me, this is it. This could be it for a while. And it was. And now already in a blink of an eye, tomorrow night, 6 games missed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but here's the thing now that we have to start thinking about. And I had a friend of mine send something to me this morning, and I think it was appropriate. you have to understand that what we do on the front end of this thing is going to affect the tail end of this thing tremendously. It's hard for us to see that. It's hard to see that far into the future. But the messaging that I got, and I think was very good. I think it would have helped this week with folks going to St. Patrick's Day stuff and going out to beaches and everything else. If I could tell you that you could stay inside for 10 days, 14 days straight, if I said, look, if we all self-isolate for that long, then we can guarantee, or we can be 90% sure that we can get a track on this thing and maybe we can save college football this year, then maybe people would listen. Because I think you got to start thinking about, football and the football season being in jeopardy here. You think about how much this is going to require all of us to reshape everything that we do, and trying to figure out how to get back to whatever normal is in weeks and months when this is eventually under some sort of control. When you read about it, when you see what this is, you can't just unleash and go back to normal and snap your fingers and say, hey, we're cool, everything's great. No, it's going to take a long time. And the longer we delay on the front end of this thing and allow the spread, the more we're going to tax our medical system, the more we're going to tax everything else, and the longer it's going to take on the back end to try to bring it back under some level of control. So,
you say get back to normalcy, and frankly, I've thought a lot about this. What will normalcy be? I'm not sure normal that we have gotten to know the last 5 years will be the same.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a great point. I don't know. I mean, right now you're looking at a situation where people are unemployment numbers are staggering already, and are going to go up. The projections on this, if we remember the craziness from 10 years ago, the recession at that point and the bailout and all of that, where it looked like the financial markets were going to completely implode there in October of 2008. That was a big financial disruption. And you talked, I think it was something in the neighborhood of 400,000, 500,000 people filed for unemployment. At that time, the projections are already at 2.2 million. The number is spiked so much. In some states already, they have had a tenfold increase in this week.
Well, a million in the hospitality industry alone. A million.
Yeah. It's hard to even imagine, because entire lines of work are going to be, wiped away temporarily. And how long is temporary, and then what does it look like when we come back? I don't know. So we are in uncharted waters. I mean, let's think about, I've got to sit here and figure out what we're going to do with. I've got two kids that are. I can't imagine we're going to be back in school in the school year. So, you've got to figure out now what do you do? There's no child care. You're not running. You can't have a bunch of daycares open because you're spreading the disease. That's the whole thing. So then what do you do? Yeah, I agree with you. Normal is a weird thing right now. I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know how anyone can be sure that when we're done with all this, that we aren't just respreading it again when we get everybody back together.
That's my fear.
We don't have wide enough testing. We don't know what it looks like. So yeah, I think we're in for a long one here.
Well, obviously I'm not a doctor, but I've been listening to many talk about this today, and there is the sense, and they're not 100% certain, but there is the sense that if you've had it once, you will build up an immunity.
Like
I don't know how long
having
that
the
immunity.
measles when you're little.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's a permanent immunity, but it should be at least a short-term immunity to recapturing it. And again, I'm just talking about what somebody else said, because I certainly would not know the answer to that, but I certainly hope that is the right answer.
Well, I mean, it ends up like, for example, I mean, if you go back and look, the problem with this one, it's why it's good and bad. It is not as fatal as something like Zika or Ebola or something like that. But when viruses aren't as fatal, they also tend to be easier to spread because the people aren't as obviously sick and don't die. The coronavirus has got a much higher mortality rate than the average flu, but it's not nearly as high as those other ones. It also has the ability to have a fairly lengthy incubation period so that you can spread it. It's a really tricky one in terms of its spread, and you can spread it while being asymptomatic, all kinds of stuff like that. That makes it really hard to deal with. That's why the immunity thing is tricky too, because I know that they are working on, and they will continue to work. And I know folks are, there's a lot of folks being, extremely vigilant in terms of working on vaccines and treatments and all of that. And that's obviously extremely needed. In the case of like Zika, it doesn't take long in the scheme of life for a population to develop something of a herd immunity thing to stuff like this. But I say that in the scheme, we're talking 18 to 24 months.
Right.
In the scheme of time, that's a blink of an eye. And for you and me, that's a long time right now. But, you tend to develop something like that. So in the case of Zika, for example, like the vaccine developers, really, they ended up with a vaccine, but in many cases, it didn't even have to be deployed because the herd immunity had kicked in by the time that it had been widespread enough to actually deploy it. So now what that means for this, I don't know, because that was a whole different kettle of fish. Not nearly as many people got sick, not nearly as many, and it was a much different curve. And we don't want to overload our medical system. You can't, there were some folks that were pretty fatalistic about this thing and said, look, why don't just everybody give it? And that would destroy our medical system. We're already in a lot of difficulty as it is. So we can't afford to do that.
And while you're right, if we look at percentages, the fatality of coronavirus is minimal, but it still, I just looked at the coronavirus dashboard, and we're talking about 11,365 people across the world have died. So
and then you're talking about point. So
you're talking about
the numbers get
0.3 or something,
0.5%. And it depends. It seems to depend a lot on where you are, and also a lot of it is the medical, like if you look at what's happening in Italy, it's just extraordinary because part of it is it seems to affect men more than women. It seems to affect obviously the culture that you live in will affect it. If you have any kind of a lung issue, smokers, asthma, COPD, stuff like that, you're obviously at a much higher risk. And then your medical system has to be able to handle it. In Italy, they've just been completely overwhelmed from a medical standpoint. And so their fatality rate is much higher. I think it's like 6% or 8% or something like that. But a lot of that has to do with, if you go into the hospital and you need a ventilator and there is not one to have, maybe in a case of a ventilator, you would survive and you'd be okay. But if you don't have one, you're not. It becomes triage and your death rate goes up, not necessarily because it's more, of a deadly disease. If it's just your medical system has been overrun, you can't handle it, and it starts to become casualties of war. I mean, we use these kinds of war terms because people need to understand that is the choice that you're making. I get it sucks for everybody. It sucks for you up and down the line. There's not a person listening who hasn't been affected. Some of you in extraordinarily devastating ways by what's happened over the last few months. But in our own way, I think it's important to reframe this so that people understand that a lot of this is also, sacrificial. Your ability to sacrifice part of your workday or part of what you do, or take care of your kids at home, or to do the things that you do, you are helping to save the vulnerable folks in our community, the older folks in our community. You're helping to save those people in your own way. There are people that have already we've seen so many people across the country step up and help with folks in need. We've seen so many of our medical personnel go into this thing without proper equipment, and they just go anyway because, they are truly heroic. So in the midst of all this, times of crisis reveal who you are. We're seeing a ton of incredible people reveal themselves in the course of this. I just think it's important for all of us to go back, and none of us alive have really ever seen anything like this, but we have to sacrifice what we can and do the right thing to keep this thing going. If we all do our part, it's going to help. If we don't, then you're sacrificing, you're keeping folks vulnerable.
Peter, I'm with you. I think the big stand down, sports or everything around the world And I don't want to try to return back to sports until we know we're in the clear. Everything's been scrubbed down, sanitized. They're ready to go because we cannot afford a second shutdown. If we came back too early and had to shut it down again, I think the next shutdown in sports, it's out of business.
It's you have to think that you have to take that in consideration, Brett. I mean, you absolutely have to take that in consideration. You cannot. We just don't know. This is uncharted territory for everybody. I was talking about this with a friend of mine who works with older folks, and he said he has there's one person he knows of on planet Earth that might be able to top what's going on right now. He happens to take care of folks in an older home, and he's got a patient who's 101 years old, and was a Jew in Germany during the middle of the beginnings of World War II. And he said, okay, he might have a story. He might have you beat in terms of how difficult things are, and but everyone else pretty much you're going through times that would shake you to your very core.
Yeah,
times that you don't even understand, times that you can't even get a grip on. And so go talk to that guy and see what it was like in even worse times. But otherwise, talk to each other and help get each other through this thing, and make sure that we are through this thing. If we are fortunate enough and everyone can come together and reframe this thing, then we need to make sure we're through it, and we need to make sure that we have learned the lessons. And there will be plenty of lessons to be learned from this on the back end. There's no question about it.
Well, as you say, we've not seen this before, but even these kinds of things have stages. And right now, we are really truly in sort of the fearful stage, because we've been talking about this now for basically a week and a half. And now, finally, we are seeing the spikes. We are seeing what they predicted would happen. For those that were doubters, now we're seeing it. When David Waters just told us that while we were on the air, we had, when we started, 10 confirmed cases in Shelby County that are now 30 in the in the 2 hours that we've been on the air. So now
it was like 4 yesterday.
Yeah, it was 4.
It
went 4 to 10, and then 10 to 30, and Lord knows as we get more kits to see,
we don't know.
We're going to know more. But the point is, this is the next stage. We've gone from talking about it, wondering about it. Now we're fearful, and then we're going to be in it, and it's really going to be different when that happens.
And Peter, we're going to be in it. And we're going to have. There's going to be somebody pass away. And there's a very high likelihood somebody we know well, and maybe somebody directly in our orbit.
I mean, you don't know, but we've already seen some, tremendous tragedy throughout all of this. It will continue. It will be worse, as folks have really tried to say from a long time. And I think we all should have been listening much sooner than we did. This is going to get worse before it gets better, but it will get better. But I don't think there's any good in sugarcoating it. I don't think there's any good in trying to pretend like everything's normal.
No, it's
not. This is way, way beyond normal. This is a completely alien. It's so big that none of us can even really process it right now. It doesn't. You've combined. You're potentially combining a pandemic and a depression, which is not good. And it's very much it's oddly reminiscent of the 1920s rather than the 2020s, because we had the Spanish flu in 1918, followed by a little more economic happiness for a little while, and then the massive bottoming out at the end of that decade. We're kind of combining all of that into one here. It is a totally different thing, and it's totally understandable if you just want to take a day and just sit in a room and cry. That's okay. You want to sit in a room and just get mad, and you want to. I mean, we get it's okay. Emotions, we're all going through it, man. It's awful. But don't lose hope, and don't jeopardize others with your behavior. We can all look and find the helpers. There are lots of people in very unlikely places. I mean, there are a lot of folks who are stocking grocery stores who are being extremely heroic right now. Who are just doing their jobs to try to keep some level of normalcy for folks who need to get food, and a lot of very panicky folks. And they are doing amazing work right now for not a whole lot of money. And I think, if anything, this is revealing to us as a society how we're all connected. The least among us can end up, infecting everyone if you don't take care of them. If they don't have a safety net, if they don't have a system in place to get health care, if they don't have a system in place to make sure that they can pay their bills at the worst of times, they're going to go to work if they're lucky enough to have a job while they're sick, and they're going to end up infecting a lot more people, and you're going to have a whole lot of problems right there. And I think if we've seen anything, it's how much we need to make sure that all of us, in the richest country in the world, it is an absolute disgrace that we've been reduced to this, that we've got so many people who are so vulnerable in the face of this and have made so many understandable decisions that are going to end up hurting a lot of folks. I hope when we get on the back end of this thing, we can take some of those lessons and start to take care of each other a little bit better.
Let us hope that some of these measures that have been taken here in the last few days will be helpful. Peter,
thank you.
Enjoy your weekend if you can, and we'll listen to you.
Oh, you know
Monday morning.
it is now. We're just doing our we're all doing our best around here.
We are, no doubt.
Man.
Be strong.
I did get a good piece. If you want to check it out on The Athletic, I did put up a good piece.
I did.
I saw the interview with Taylor Jenkins. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. It's his most candid interview that I think he's ever done. It's worth a read.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Thank you much.
Thank you, Peter.
That is Peter
Right,
Edmondson.
y'all take care.
We take a quick timeout. I'll let you know this portion of our show is brought to you by our title sponsor. That's Genesis of Olive Branch, home of the Genesis G90, my car, the bigger one, home of the G70. That's a sports car with a back seat, home of the G80, the mid-range kind of car, mid-size, I should say. And you know what? Now they've got the SUV on the way. Genesis, the best luxury car on the market with so much technology for comfort, for listening, and for absolute safety. I'm telling you, what they have in that car makes you safe. You push a button, you can't go over in the other lane if there's something there. It absolutely kind of drives itself. Go see what I'm talking about. Get on Lamar into Mississippi. First exit's Craft Road. Turn left, and you'll see this car so good. You get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty with every vehicle. Make it a priority. Go see what the car business should be like. Go see my friends at Genesis of Olive Branch. Back with a wrap of this second hour on this Friday of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Sports 56 mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz. Weekdays from 7 to 10. Only on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
Now, a tournament flashback. In the first weekend's marquee matchup, the Auburn Tigers knocked off the Kansas Jayhawks.
Harper on the drive. Look left for Bryce Brown. Hops to the elbow. Jumper on the way. Got it. Bryce Brown, 25. He is 9 of 12 from the floor. Auburn by 20.
Auburn's 89-75 win sent them to their first Sweet 16 in 16 years. It was a road that took them all the way to the Final Four.
Your home is important. That's why Geico helps make it easy to save on homeowners insurance. Because home is more than just a place. Home is where you build a giant pillow fort in your living room, and when people ask why you have a pillow fort in your living room, you say it's for your dog. And when they ask, well, what kind? You say, chocolate lab, and weave a web of lies that's almost as intricate as the crown molding in Fort Pillow. The Geico Insurance Agency could help protect the pillow-soft fortress you call home. Call Geico and see how easy it is to switch and save on homeowners insurance.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test-driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
Hi, I'm Troy Five Ash, owner of Five Ash Roofing. Do you have any idea why I never speak the way I am right now? It's because if you're honest, sincere, and knowledgeable, you do not need fast-talking, high-energy, gimmick-promising advertising to get a customer's attention. Speaking of that, how do you think companies can offer huge rebates and giveaways when you use their services or buy their products? By overcharging you in the first place, that's how. Vivash Roofing doesn't operate that way. It's misleading and dishonest. When I provide a customer with the best products and the best service possible and do it at a fair price, why would I need gimmicks to sell it? Best products, best warranties, and best service possible. That's all we offer. Well, that and financing. Vivash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Vivash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Vivash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Farmers Insurance knows that there's a not-so-subtle difference between the sound of a car hitting your rear bumper and the sound of a clown car hitting your rear bumper.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Sorry about that!
We call that a three-ring fender bender, and we covered it. Talk to a farmer's agent.
They know a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
Call Chad Gatlin at 901-235-1176 or get a fast quote at memphisfarmers.com.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Underwritten by Farmers Truck Fire Insurance Exchanges and Affiliates. Products not available in every state.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Situation wrecks me. I can't stand the way you do it.
Welcome back in as we wind down on our second hour here. I mentioned earlier Anthony Edwards has announced he's entering the draft. He's the first guy I've seen say that. Even James Wiseman hasn't officially declared. I guess he doesn't have to, right? Because he wasn't part of the school.
He declared he was declared by the NCAA.
Precious has not. He's not declared. I'm sure he will. The other thing, we really haven't seen that many announcements of transfer portals other than Greg Marshall and all the defections.
There's
5 scholarship players and one other. Well, Keon Clergeau left UMass to go, we don't know.
Even COVID-19 can't shut the transfer portal. It's impenetrable.
Yeah, there you go. But nobody from Memphis. And so that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
And, they say Greg Brown and Jalen Green are going to make their announcements here sometime soon. That would give people a lift around here if either one of those two guys decided they would come.
Well, it would, because you're seeing the release of some way too early top 25s. And unlike last year, the Tigers just aren't anywhere in those. But you find out a little more about the roster.
You add one or two of those guys.
You get those guys.
And Cisse reclassifies, and you get another grad transfer, and you're keeping everybody. I really believe next year Damian Baugh and, in particular, Boogie Ellis will be better players. And I think Quinones became a really good player at the end of the year. And I think one of the things about Lester that we haven't really talked that much about, I think you've mentioned it, but not many have, is Lester became one heck of a good defender. He was shutting down the best guard on the other team from the mid-season on.
And played as hard as you can play.
Yeah.
All out, full tilt.
He's the kind of guy that if he's on your team, man, you'll love him. But if he's not,
he'll drive you crazy.
You would go crazy.
Quit playing so hard.
Well,
slow down a little bit.
Not only that, but he does a lot of yapping. He talks to the referees. But I love him.
That's all fine if you back it up. And he mostly did.
No doubt.
Had a really good freshman year. And Tiger basketball next year, it might be a little better all the way around to maybe go in flying at just 15,000 feet instead of 50,000 feet.
Well, that was all the smoke was too much smoke. That ended up being the truth.
But it was necessary when you had that kind of team, and it disintegrated, and then things settled down. But maybe head into next year, show me and not tell me as much.
I'm going to think that Penny's approach next year is going to be a little bit more laid back.
It will be.
Than it was this year. That's
he knows what he's
just
doing.
Me guessing. I don't know if you saw this. There is the craziest ESPN bracket where they took the greatest basketball players, college basketball players of all time.
Yeah, Pete Maravich was a 13 seed.
Well, how about in one they had
or was he
Brittany
overall?
Stewart as the 1 seed, and the 2 seed was like Allen Iverson or somebody like that.
Yeah,
and it was crazy. Lou Alcindor was the 1 seed, and Diana Taurasi was the 2 seed in the East region. What?
Yeah.
How do you get guys against girls anyway?
How do you know?
I don't. I mean, that is.
And how does Trae Young 1 year at OU get on there, but not a single Memphis player?
Derrick Rose wasn't on there?
Derrick Rose was not.
Chris Douglas Roberts, an
Was
All-American,
not.
was not.
Was Kevin
Keith
Durant?
Lee?
Kevin Durant, I believe, was on there.
He was 1 year at UT.
Zion's
Excuse
there,
me,
but I mean that's
Texas.
Dave's greatest college basketball player of all time.
What
Zion.
was the seeding?
Zion was like a 9.
Well, he's a 1 year guy.
I think Zion should be on there ahead of Kevin Durant. He at least went to the Elite 8.
Yeah, but he hasn't won an NBA title yet.
He hadn't, but this wasn't for NBA.
I know it, but I think they had to throw that in there. How can they not have
my number 1 seed all
Rose
time would be
or CDR
Kareem.
on there?
My number, who'd be your number 2 seed all time? If Kareem's 1, who's 2? It's not Michael Jordan, not as a college player. It's not.
I'll tell you who it is. I know exactly. Bill Russell.
Mine's Bill Walton.
Bill Russell won 2 titles. Well,
Bill
Walton
Walton
won more.
is a number 1 seed in the
Is he?
tournament. Yes.
He should be.
And Russell, I believe, is a 2.
For college players, Christian Laettner would be very high.
He's a 1 as well.
You know, my friend George Hoffman in Chicago, he used to work for all-sports show called a station called The Score. They're going to re-air the Cubs' 2016 postseason run. And we mentioned earlier,
Good programming.
Fox Sports is going to rerun some Grizzlies games starting at 7:30 tomorrow night. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll go to Chicago. Andy Schiffman, our agent, he's standing by. That's next on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
One thing I really admire about Central Barbecue is their commitment to quality.
Then why do they let you do their commercials?
I'm talking about their food. Everything is prepared with devotion to taking the time and effort to create perfect barbecue.
Oh, I know. That's exactly why I was wondering why.
They're not kidding with that slow-smoked Memphis-style slogan. They smoke their pork for 14 hours. Do they have to? They do if they want to be the best barbecue in Memphis, and they are.
And yet they let you just throw together.
There's nothing better than Central Barbecue because they care.
Except apparently about their radio ads.
This is the Frells family. They live on a piece of land they call greener pasture, and they work on it behind the wheel of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. With its durable construction and features that hook up to dozens of attachments with ease, no job is too tough. The Frells family runs with us, because this is more than just land. It's home. Nothing runs like a Deere. Get a 1 Series tractor for just $99 per month at your John Deere dealer today. For additional cost information, please call toll-free 855-633-2315.
Your Memphis Tigers football program completed the greatest season in program history with 12 wins, a conference championship, and a berth in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. Season tickets for the 2020 season are on sale now and start at just $100 when you buy 4 in the family fun zone or $150 for end zone seating. Get your season tickets by May 15th and receive a free gift, concessions deals, exclusive access to regular season and postseason tickets, and more. Get your season tickets today at GoTigersGo.com or call 901-678-2331. Memphis Tigers football.
You already know you can listen to Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7 anywhere with the Sports 56 app or at sports56whbq.com. But you can also keep up to date with everything going on by keeping up with Sports 56 on social media. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch for information on breaking news, chances to win prizes, and video of all the shows. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Stay in touch with Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7 on social media. We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
We talk the NBA next with Andy Schiffman after I tell you about the title sponsor of this hour. That's DeSoto Auto Sales down on Goodman Road in DeSoto County. Online at DeSotoAutoSales.com. 5704 Goodman Road. The phone number is 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales, where all the cars are test-driven, checked out from head to toe, unlimited inventory, every make, every model. If they don't have it on the lot at DeSoto Auto Sales, they'll go out and find it for you. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales, and they'll treat you like family. And right now, you need your credit approved, and you need it done quickly, and they promise you that with the ultimate car experience. We're living in a world today that time really matters. They'll have you walk in, test drive your car, credit approved, paperwork completed, and you're gone in about 45 minutes. Visit them online for the referrals at DeSotoAutoSales.com at 5704 Goodman Road. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales.
We are living in a different time, that is for sure. As we head to Chicago to talk to our friend Andy Schiffman, an agent to many, including plenty of those that are pro basketball players in Europe, including, I believe, Italy. So let's start there, Andy Schiffman. Hope you're feeling well in Chicago. Hope you're safely isolated. And let's start. Do you have any Italian players, and what's the status there?
Sure. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I know it's a little bit tricky, everything going on right now, and there's so many unanswered questions that we all have. So absolutely, I've been very busy over the last couple of weeks because we, as an agency, represent about 40 players all throughout all of Europe and China, which I'll touch upon as well. And we've had 3 American players playing Italy this season. Fortunately, each of those players were able to fly home. And from an agent's standpoint, whether it's Italy, Spain, France, Turkey, Russia, Israel, and we talk a lot about Tariq Blacks in Tel Aviv and Israel, I have the goal of making sure, first and foremost, these players are safe and secure and comfortable. And I've told all the players we have overseas, if you feel the need that it's best for you and your family to fly home or for you to get back home to the U.S. with your family, then I'll make it happen. But in some circumstances, some teams, not all, will say, look, our season is set to resume as of now in April or later in April. It's just no telling, but they're all kind of living week by week. If some teams say that and they have the expectation of actually playing games still, because right now all seasons everywhere have been suspended, some have even been canceled overseas, then the teams may say, you can leave, but we're not going to continue paying your salary if you get up and leave. Now, other teams are more empathetic to the situation, and just like Tel Aviv with Tariq, they've said if you want to go home, then your salary is protected, and as long as the season is suspended but not completely outright canceled, you will still get paid just as if you were here. So we've been able to get that secured and get that in writing because that's very important from a legal standpoint to protect the player that we have the team's permission to leave. Otherwise, you could be a little bit on the other end of the spectrum and realize you're giving up a lot of money to leave without the team's permission. And so that's kind of how things are going on right now in Europe. I am talking to our players on a daily basis with updates and just trying to keep them calm and keep them up to speed and share information. And then you have China, where the league is set to resume April 15th. I believe it's the only place in the world right now that is talking about resuming professional sports, and they seemingly have the virus contained there. Everything I've read on China and talked with numerous people there who work with me in the market, it seems as though the number of cases coming in from the outside has now overtaken the number of cases cropping up domestically, which is promising. I think that's promising for the U.S. and other parts of the world as well, because if you think about this timeline of everything, how everything's unfolded, China's really 2 months ahead of everybody, because this all started for them in December, and this really didn't start to get widespread and become a current pandemic state as it is now here in the U.S. until just a few weeks ago. And so I have players that are going back to China over the next several days to resume the season. Now, as Americans and anyone coming into the country, they have to be quarantined, mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks in China, and then they can practice with their team, and games are being played in front of no fans starting April 15th for a month before the playoffs begin. But these players obviously want to go back and not only play basketball, but recoup the rest of their money and be able to make what could be a lot of money still left for the rest of this season, albeit only potentially 1 month or 2 months if the team's going to advance in the playoffs. So there's a lot of moving parts. Everything is very tricky. And Dave, I think the biggest part in all this is everyone has the same questions, and you just don't know. It evolves every single day.
By the way, I'm looking at my coronavirus dashboard here, and China's at 88% recovery. That'll be something. If indeed they are able to play basketball in April, then we would look 60 days ahead and hope, maybe that is, or 90 days ahead, that would be the case for us here in the United States. If you don't mind me asking, because we all love Tarek Black, is he still in Tel Aviv, or did he come home? What's going on with him?
He's in Tel Aviv right now, but he and his family are flying home tomorrow. Fortunately, he is with one of the most professional teams in all of Europe, and their ownership group has given every American player and really player outside of Israel permission to leave with their salary being protected. Now, Tarek plays in 2 leagues, the Israeli League, which was just canceled a few days ago, and the Euro League, which is the best league in all of basketball outside the NBA, where teams play around the world in different markets, different countries, etc. That has been temporarily suspended until April 11th as of now. I think that things will continue getting pushed back and eventually canceled. That's my own feeling and opinion. But the truth is, no one truly knows. All of these leagues, for the most part, are really trying to salvage the season, and no one wants to lose all that money, especially on the team side and the league side, and just cancel the season. So a lot of these leagues are optimistic they will continue to pick up where they left off or just cancel a number of games and have a truncated schedule to play out the season. But like I mentioned, we just don't know. So there is incentive for Tarek to return to Israel if and when the EuroLeague resumes. And if it doesn't, then he'll stay home with his family in the United States.
Andy, I know Dave has, and I want to bring both of you in on this because I haven't. I want to be enlightened about it. Andy, have you ever been to China?
Yes.
Okay, have you ever been to Wuhan?
I have not been to Wuhan.
Dave has. Have either one of y'all, and whichever one wants to go first, did either one of y'all see these wet markets that we keep hearing about where all the live animals are and you can go and buy them and they slaughter them right there and they prepare the food right there for you? If either one of y'all, either one of y'all see that in your time in China?
I saw poultry being served, sold that way. I don't remember, cattle or pigs or anything of that nature. I don't remember that at all.
Andy?
Yeah, same thing. I remember seeing chickens and fish and things like that out there on the street. I went to 3 different cities in China, 4 different cities actually, when I went a couple of years ago, the biggest one being Beijing. I did not see anything specific like that. Now, different circumstances, I'm not comparing the two, but, air pollution is extremely heavy in China, so you see a lot of people walking around with masks on. I actually had one with me the whole time just in case. Kind of little tracker that I had said it's a sensitive, the air is sensitive for certain groups, and so you might want to put on a mask, but that is obviously, that pales in comparison to the coronavirus. So to answer your question, I don't really remember seeing anything other than just chicken and fish being served kind of in a market out on the street.
And Wuhan's 11 million people.
Yeah.
You to be bigger than a village, you have to have 3 million people. I mean, the size, the population of the cities in China is absolutely amazing. I was just looking on this thing. Israel, by the way, has 677 confirmed cases without a fatality, thank God, up to this point. Closer.
There are parts overseas, not to cut you off, but that I have a player in Sam Decker. He used to play for the Houston Rockets.
Oh yeah.
He's
married to Olivia.
He's married to now
Olivia Hammond.
Olivia, whose father happens to be the great Kevin Harlan.
Exactly, and so she's in the States. He's still in Krasnodar, Russia, where there is a very good basketball team. I've been there, small city outside of Moscow, and we've been communicating back and forth on whether or not it makes sense for him to go home And I talked with the team today, and they're allowing him to go home. But same sort of thing. Their season is set to resume here in a couple of weeks. So they're optimistic that they will begin practicing. It's interesting. So Sam plays for a team where 2 weeks ago, their last game played, an assistant coach on that opposing team tested positive. So Sam and his teammates have been quarantined in Krasnodar, Russia for the last 2 weeks.
Wow. And
they're getting tested again Monday, and hopefully all is well. They can begin practicing. But Sam understands both sides of it, and the one thing that Sam is very cognizant of is, and you can look on the tracker dates, there's very few cases in Russia compared to the U.S. And right now, if my choice is to stay over in Russia and keep getting paid, and whether or not the season will resume remains to be seen, but you stay there significantly out of harm's way or hop on multiple flights, because if Sam were to come back to the U.S., he would have to get to Moscow. So there's one flight, 2 airports. He'd have to fly to New York. There's another airport, another flight. He'd have to get back to Wisconsin. So you're talking about 3 or 4 different flights, 3 or 4 different airports where your chances of contracting the coronavirus greatly increase. And then the question becomes, well, what happens if I contract it? Well, you're quarantined for 2 weeks and you go to a hospital. The exact same thing you'd be doing if you were over in Krasnodar, Russia, and you got this thing. The difference is you're in an American hospital versus obviously a Russian hospital. But these players have health insurance from the team over there. So he's staying put for the time being. And if these seasons do officially get canceled, then there's more incentive to come home at that point.
How about this? Since you asked, there are 199 at this very moment confirmed cases in Russia. There are 228 in the state of Tennessee. So
wow.
It is not.
What's Memphis look like? I haven't.
Russia. Well, we now have 30 confirmed cases in Shelby County. When we started the show today, because we're hitting this moment of ascent, of a spike. We started today with 10. Now we have 30. So in the time that Brett and I have been on the air, maybe a little bit before that, it's tripled. It went from 4 to 8 yesterday, and then 10 to 30 today. So it's going a lot faster. Than
Andy, it's the story of our lifetimes.
Yep, 100%. I mean,
closer to home, yesterday the NBA decided they were going to close gyms to all their players and told them not to go to gyms in community centers either. If you've got a home gym, I guess, like Mike Miller does here, like Vince Carter does in Orlando.
Bet LeBron's got nice digs.
I'm sure he does too. You don't have to worry about that. But what was the reaction of your players who are in the NBA to all of this?
Well, look, obviously they're disappointed because, knock on wood, most of them feel healthy and are healthy and do not have any strain of this virus. They want to continue to be in shape. And their lifestyle, guys, is every day, all they do is play basketball and work out. That's all they do with their time. So now to have this taken away from them, understandably so, it's a huge adjustment and a transition, and it's not a comfortable one. So while the guys understand it, it's definitely a significant change for a lot of them. So from the players I've spoken with about it, they understand it, but most of them do have that equipment accessible in their own home. Some do have home gyms that they can have access to. You know, we do have some players in the G League that there's one actually here in Chicago that plays for the Windy City Bulls G League team, and he lives in Atlanta. And I talked to him earlier, and he just went to the grocery store up in Hoffman Estates where the Windy City Bulls play. He is quarantined in his apartment other than that, and in 10 days he's going to drive home to Atlanta, but he does not have access to any sort of gym. Now, what I've seen a lot of guys start doing is just, especially if they're in the southern states where it's a little bit nicer and warmer, you know, go out. You can go out and run. You can go out and exercise and walk and kill some time that way and just get some cardio and exercise. But it's not like you or I being shut out from a gym. And while that might stink and that might be inconvenient, it's not our livelihood like it is for these professional basketball players.
Yeah. I know you said you did not think the Euro Leagues would come back. So let me ask you this, and I know you're guessing when you say it, and I'm not going to hold you to anything here, but do you think we will see some sort of completion of this NBA season?
I'm optimistic we will. I think we will, just because from my conversations with people in the NBA, general managers who have been on these calls with the league office and the Players Association, who we have direct contact with, I know that their number one priority is to somehow, some way save this season. And so if we can hopefully follow the same track as China did, just like you mentioned, and you fast forward now to potentially May or June, and things are significantly more contained, then I do believe the league plans to start the season then. And if you look and kind of extrapolate out this proposed timeline, one thing I saw says potentially have the season resume or even just go right into the playoffs in early to mid-June. And then the NBA Finals would take place around early August. And you have can't forget about the off-season summer activities with the draft. That would potentially, again, based on this timeline, which is nothing official, this is a proposal, something like the draft happening end of August. Then you have free agency starting in September. And then Summer League falls in line, in early fall, early to mid-September, with the training camp beginning in December and then the season starting around late December, which I think makes a lot of sense. Now, this one proposal talks about them still playing a full 82-game season next year with the season beginning December 25th. The one thing I disagree with is trying to pack a full 82-game season where you're starting the season over 2 months later than usual. I think at that point it makes a lot of sense to toy with the idea, which they've been talking about for a couple of years now, of a shorter schedule and play a 60-game schedule next year to see how it is, see if players like it, and then pick back up potentially in the summer of 2021 with a full 82-game schedule. The difficult part is there's so many moving parts, and you're trying to plan for something that you just truly don't know what the landscape will look like at that point in time. And so there's just we can concoct this plan now, and then a month from now everything changes or everything shifts, and that really is hard to gauge. And then the other thing we have to think of too, how all these contracts are affected now, because the league would have to amend and allow for the amendment of all these contracts with specific guarantee dates in them to say if a player is on the roster as of November 1st, he gets X amount of more dollars than he would have prior to, called a partial guarantee. Win player options and team options and rookie extensions can all be entered into and exercised. All of that now has to change, and they have to look at that just kind of one by one based on this new timeline that they will hopefully come up with if the season is saved. So there's so many moving parts, but I do think that we will see basketball again. It'll just be significantly later than this whole 30-day hiatus has been talked about. I mean, initially they were hoping they could play in 30 days. I think that is optimistically looking more like potentially 90 days right now.
I'm in your league on that. And if they did finish and it ended up going all the way into August, it would seem to me that you might want to try for at least a year exactly what the Atlanta owner said. Start the season around Christmas, change the season so you avoid taking on the NFL and college football. And honestly, if that happened, it would be the greatest thing that could happen to college basketball. I'm hoping. I think that's something that makes sense to me.
Absolutely. And multiple GMs who previously shot down that idea as quote-unquote ridiculous, I think now, at least from my conversations, they would be on board with that. The number one prerogative in all of this from the league side is to save the season so they can continue to save money and make money. Because the one thing they do not want to see happen is games being canceled at all. Then they really start to lose money across the board, especially if there are no basketball games being played at all for the rest of this season. That's going to really, really hurt things moving forward, and then it trickles down to the players. Because then the salary cap is adjusted lower. The number of available teams that can spend money is significantly reduced. The amount of money teams will have to play with in free agency is significantly reduced. So there's so many things that go into these conversations. And then you start to think about the whole, like what I'm dealing with right now. How does this all impact the pre-draft process? It's interesting from an agent's perspective right now. Typically this time of year, we're excited for NCAA tournament basketball. We're excited for these conference tournaments. And as an agent, when I'm out recruiting, this is kind of crunch time. So every college player's season is almost staggered to where they're ending at different times, which leads them to make decisions on who they're going to select as their agent, if they're going to go back to school or declare for the draft at different times in the month of March and April. Well, now it's been a free-for-all. All of these kids' seasons have ended at the exact same time, and they're all in the process right now of interviewing agents and having these final meetings and picking agents. And for us, as an agency who's typically, we take on a smaller group of players in our pre-draft class, you can just ask Brandon Clark about that. We have to be that much more on top of it and selective because things are moving every single day. There's so many conversations happening, so you really have to make sure you're getting the right type of kid in your class. And obviously, we want to be able to be first on the list for these players who are making decisions for agents. But then you think about how that impacts the training. Will we even be able to have training beginning typically in April like we typically do for the draft? Can you be around a group of players, a group of people, 10 or more at that time? Will they have the combine? When will the combine be held? They already canceled the senior tournament in Portsmouth, Virginia, which has been a staple of analysis for NBA evaluators for years and years and years. So for me right now, I have an eye on that in terms of how that's going to impact a rookie entering the draft process this year. It's going to be drastically different than it would be in previous years.
So much uncertainty. It's amazing. You are absolutely right. We'll maybe hope we got a little bit more clearance here in a week when we talk to you again. You please stay healthy. We always enjoy these Friday afternoon chats.
Appreciate it, guys. Stay safe. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You got it. Andy Schiffman, our agent in Chicago. He's brought to you in part by the commissary. And, we're aware restaurants have closed, but Walker Taylor and all the folks at both the commissaries, Germantown and Collierville, want you to know they are still open for
Get those
takeout.
party packs. They'll bring it out to you.
They'll bring it out to you, especially if you're going to the one in Germantown. If you go to the new one in Collierville, they got the drive-through that makes it even easier for you.
It'll be the best thing. I know we're all going to get the biggest cases ever of cabin fever, but what a great way to break it up and break the monotony. Go to the commissary, either one. They'll bring it to you, and they'll bring it to you with a smile. They're still working as hard as ever for us and serving up that great Memphis-style food, Memphis-style barbecue.
And I do want to point out, I thanked our sponsors earlier, but if we want these restaurants to make it in the long run, because we're about to embark on some very difficult time for local businesses, especially restaurants, please go out and support your local restaurants with the to-go. And the commissary is the best and the easiest way to do it, either place in Germantown or Poplar and Houston Levy in the newest place right there in Collierville. USA Swimming wants the Tokyo Olympics to be postponed by a year, according to a letter written to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. In the letter, which was tweeted by USA Swimming today, USA CEO Tim Hinchey writes that his athletes have struggled to train for the upcoming games because of the pandemic, and he calls on the U.S. OPC to advocate for a 1-year postponement.
We're headed that way.
I don't see how you could play the games.
And for the IOC, I know it would be really tough to host in 21 in Tokyo, and maybe even for the host city, and then come right back with the Winter Olympics in 22. But these are extraordinary times, and it's for everyone. When you look at that country count, it's no one spared.
No, you actually, I think that's the way it's going to have to go, and it will be. It'll be hard for them for the 1-year swing, but they're going to have to probably do that. This portion of the show brought to you by Conway. Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and they've extended February into March. This was the best year for him to do that. Two months now where you can get a free Carrier 80% gas furnace if you buy the standard Carrier air conditioning system. I mean, you can't get any better than that. That new technology makes you efficient. Your house is cool, and you got a free gas furnace for next winter. You can't beat it. Well, wait a second. Maybe you can, because he's going to throw in, because it's February, extended into March, a free April air cleaner, a 10-year parts warranty, no charge, a free Nest thermostat, that's the latest and greatest, and 12 months interest-free. That's why it's February, and it's been extended. If you head on over or call this number, 384-3511, that way they come out to you from Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric. We take a break. When we come back, we did a very, very nice interview with the writer of Faith for the Daily Memphian, who's in the Commercial Appeal forever. That would be David Waters. We will replay that interview in just a minute. We think it's important. We think you'll enjoy it. Stick around. This is Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab a seat every afternoon for Sports 56 Happy Hour with Johnny Radio. Right here on Sports 56, 96.1 FM and 87.7 FM.
Now exclusively at the Home Depot. Give your lawn a 1-2 punch with a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action and save 50% on a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Ultra Feed. Pick up both bags. Apply Triple Action now to knock out tough weeds and Ultra Feed 8 weeks later to green and feed all season. 2 bags. 1 stronger, greener lawn. With a 1-2 punch of Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action and 50% on a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Ultra Feed. Now at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. While supplies last, selection varies by store.
I'm here with the great Pat Donahue from the Rendezvous Restaurant Shipping Department.
Thanks, Brett. We've been shipping our ribs all over the country now for decades from our USDA-inspected shipping kitchen in the Pinch District. We hand-cook our ribs in pits that Mr. Charlie built over charcoal, just like they do at the restaurant.
So what comes in a rib box?
We could do pork shoulder, we could do ribs, our sauce, seasoning, baked beans, coleslaw. We'll even throw in Pancho's cheese dip with our nacho boxes. We also put a bag of Rendezvous seasoned popcorn, heating instructions, some chef hats, some wet naps, and some other helpful tips from our kitchen. We ship our ribs overnight, exclusively FedEx. And we put them in nice packaging. We don't ever want to use styrofoam, so we use corrugated cardboard, actually 2 boxes that fit nice together, so the ribs get to you, your loved ones, or your clients in a safe, wholesome manner. Rendezvous ribs are perfect for out-of-town clients, customers, loved ones. We also ship ribs for any occasion.
Where do we order these great ribs?
You can go to www.hogsfly.com or give us a call at 1-888-464-7359.
Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant in the alley since 1948.
Got something you want to get off your chest?
You better have a backup plan.
Want to join the conversation?
Someone needs to tell him he has to grow up.
Join us on the First Bank phone lines at 360-8255 or the First Bank text line at 67129. Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
We are coming to the end of a very hard week for sure. And I remind you, if you're looking for something to sort of deaden the pain, Spirit Shop. It's still open. The Spirit Shop, Eddie Connor's place, family owned and operated, another one of those small businesses that we come to really rely on. It's important to all of us, and I know that Eddie's daughter and they're keeping it going. There's no doubt about that. And they will open up the doors for you and walk you around and make sure you find the proper spirit, whether it's high-end, premium wines, or premium bourbons for that matter, or you're looking for something in the middle, or maybe you're looking for the next up-and-comer, or maybe you just want a flat-out bargain. He can direct you either way. And if you don't see what you're looking for in the store, he'll order it for you. That's the kind of service they do on any spirit, tequila, gin, vodka, whatever it may be. He's got beer. He's got all the accessories. He's even got cocktails in a can. You want a rim with a little bit of seasoning? He's got that. Everything you could possibly want for spirits, he's got it in that little log cabin at Poplar and St. Nick. 4848 Poplar Avenue to be exact, just down from Clark Tower. Go check it out on your way home tonight. It's the Spirit Shop. A little bit earlier in the day, the faith writer for this city. First with the Commercial Appeal for years, now with the Daily Memphian. He is David Waters, and he's been talking to all of the clergy around town during this pandemic. Here are what he was thinking about when we had a chance to sit down and chat. And that is David Waters. Thank you for giving us so much of your time today. And what are you hearing as you are writing? I know you've just written an article, and I didn't have a chance to really read it. I read the one that you had posted last night. What's the number one thing that you're hearing from people in regards to faith and getting us through this time?
Well, first of all, hi, Dave. Hi, Brett. Thanks for having me on. I've been listening to you guys for a long time.
I've been reading you forever.
Fan.
I'm a big fan of yours, David. I said earlier, I don't know you. I've never met you, and I've read you, shall we say, religiously through the years.
Well, thanks. Well, I appreciate that. You know, when you called yesterday, Dave, I was kind of hoping you wanted to talk to me about the Church of Baseball.
Yeah, we'd
I
love
know
to.
We'll do that another time. How's that?
Another time. Well, first of all, let me correct one thing. The cases in Shelby County are now, the identified infections are now up to 30.
Wow.
And I think that's more than anything else, that kind of increase is and it's going to keep going. It's just a factor of more testing being available. And in fact, the county health department and the city is going to open a drive-through testing station very soon, maybe tomorrow or maybe sometime this weekend. So I think you're going to see the numbers rise exponentially. I don't think there's any way to avoid that, but I think a lot of that is just because we're now able to test more people, and so now more people are going to be identified as having the virus. So I think that's the first thing. And I think that it's really important, not just for the houses of worship to be involved in this, but everybody. And what I'm hearing from a lot of the pastors and a lot of the clergy leaders this week is that they are sort of coming to grips this week with the need, the dire need. The number one priority is to stop the spread. That's what happened in South Korea. That's what happened in other places. That's what did not happen in Italy. The first priority for everyone is to be as socially isolated and distant as possible and to stop having large gatherings. You just have to do that. And so I think a lot of the clergy are sort of coming to grips with that this week, and they've met and they've been talking all week. They've been talking to the mayor, the health department. They've been talking to each other. And they're going to close their services starting this week. Just about every house of worship is now closing its doors or going to be closing its doors this weekend and indefinitely for the next few weeks.
And it's so very sad, David, because it's such a routine for so many people like me. Heck, I need it. Somebody asked me one time, Brett, why always at church? I said, because I'm a sorry sinner. I need it. I need it for my soul. And so many older people's routine that sadly is the kind of the target of this COVID-19, but it is necessary. I do like the wave of people doing it online where you can still watch it. And I would beg somebody that if they suspect a neighbor or a friend that's older that may not be very technologically sound, help them, because it is a big part to older people's routine to be at a faith gathering.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just think about how difficult this decision is for everybody, restaurants and everybody else, but especially for houses of worship and clergy leaders. If there's one place you should be able to go in times of crisis and emergency, it ought to be a house of worship and prayer. And I think the initial reluctance to close worship services was for just that reason. These are things that people need to get through. We need to be together to worship, to pray, to help each other, support each other through these times. And traditionally, even during times of war and Great Depression and 9/11 and everything else, that is where we've gone. And it's been rare for that option to be cut off. But now it's just essential. And there are other reasons, too. If you think about one of the functions of churches and houses of worship in a society, and especially in places like Memphis, is not just to provide places for people to go and fellowship and worship and pray, but to kind of help manage a community's fear. And also, sort of the flip side of that is to show faith in the face of fear, to get together. And I think that's how we sort of confront our challenges in this community especially. We do that through faith, by showing faith in each other, by showing faith in our God. And to not have that option, at least in person, I think we're all still in shock. I think we're all still trying to figure out how to deal with that. Now, the clergy, to their credit, I think they're doing as much as they possibly can. They're opening up their sanctuaries to try to figure this out and to try to help people stay together in some form of community. We talk a lot about social media and how it's a community online. Well, we're going to put that to the test this weekend, especially, and see what kind of community we can build online. I think the main form that most churches are using and have used in recent months and years is Facebook Live. So if you have any access to Facebook at all, or if your kids do, your grandkids, help you hook up to Facebook Live. Your house of worship, more likely than not, is going to be on Facebook Live this weekend. And if your particular church or place of worship is not, you're going to be able to find one that is.
I'm amazed at how much internet religion from every kind of denomination is there. I will tell you that Temple Israel, of which I am a member, has had their services, their Sabbath services, of course, their High Holy services, on the internet for at least the last 7 or 8 years. And
Yeah.
I'm imagining that the bigger churches or mosques in this market all have done the same. It's funny, but I was going to ask you as we started this thing, what is the percentage of churches in this city or any of the religions, how many are online that can be streamed?
Well, I don't know that anybody's been able to count that, and I'm not sure you could, but I would suspect that at least half of congregations and probably a majority of clergy are on Facebook Live in some way. They're opening Facebook or Twitter to, prayers and brief little messages that they send out to their congregants every week. They've been doing that for a long time. I think what's different now is that they're trying to find ways to make sure that this is accessible to everybody. And, that's one of the challenges is that, places like Temple Israel, Bellevue Baptist, Hope Presbyterian, they've been doing this for a long time. They've got the technology,
right.
They've got the staff, they've got this all figured out. It's the smaller congregations, and especially those in rural areas and in urban high poverty areas where they don't have the capability or haven't figured this out yet. That's going to be the challenge. And so one of the cool things that's happened this week is Scott Morris at Church Health held a virtual meeting online, Facebook Live, with about 250 clergy leaders from across the community, all faiths. And they started talking about ways that the larger churches and the more resourced congregations can help the smaller ones make this work. And so now they're developing partnerships online. They're hooking each other up across this virtual space. Like, for example, Christ United Methodist Church, which has been doing this for a long, long time. They're reaching out to smaller United Methodist congregations to help them out and so on. So I think we're going to be able to ramp up pretty quick. Nobody hopes this happens for a long time, but, in the long run, this could actually help because, a lot of churches are dealing with shut-ins always, and they're dealing with folks who are, for health reasons or other reasons, are not able to physically go to worship services anyway, even in normal times. So I think this actually, in the long run, could help just about everybody find a way to worship.
David, you referenced it, and I talked about it earlier. After 9/11 on Tuesday, September 11th, then that next Sunday, every pew in the country was packed, and flags flying, and we sought solace and refuge with that. We can't do that this time. There's not that, air quotes here, enemy. Well, the enemy's the virus, but we had the bogeyman after 9/11. We had the hijackers. We had the guy we could hold, UBL, Osama bin Laden, we could hold up as the bad guy. There's not that, but I do wish, even though we're not supposed to gather and congregate, I wish maybe a week from Sunday or a weekday at some designated time around the country, church bells ring, car horns honk at a designated time, just to have a rallying point for everyone in this, because we don't seem to have a rally point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure you remember this, Brett, but after 9/11 happened on a Tuesday morning. And by noon that Tuesday, it wasn't just the following weekend, by noon that Tuesday, churches were opening the doors to worshipers and people who just wanted to pray, just wanted to go someplace and pray. And it was like that all week. And it is so unbelievably rare for this kind of thing to happen. I think the last time it happened for any large number of worshiping areas, that was back 100 years ago during the flu epidemic in 1918. And believe it or not, Bishop Mason, who founded the Church of God in Christ, actually canceled the Holy Convocation that year to try to prevent the spread of the flu. And Memphis did such a great job. The Daily Memphian just had a piece about this by Wayne Dowdy from the library. Memphis and Memphis churches and social structures just did such a great job of shutting down 100 years ago during that flu epidemic. that we had an incredibly low number of deaths by that flu in this community. And I think that's the hope this time, is that we have done this soon enough, and it's going to be done quickly enough and broadly enough that it's going to have a major impact on slowing the spread, or at least flattening the infection curve, as they call it.
I'm into that. It strikes me you both have said this different ways, but in the past we have identified when we're hurting. You know, we are spiritually hurting or mentally hurting, whatever it may be, and we can gather because we don't have anything that we can spread to somebody else. You can't touch somebody and they're grieving. And so we need that company in those regards. In this, you just can't do that. And I was curious. This struck me in my mind that part of the reason they've decided they were going to close all these is because the target of this disease, or the most scary part of it, is people who are 60 and above. And it seems to me, and I think I read this in your column, one of yours, that the majority of worshipers are of an older age. Do you know those demographics? Like, how many that are more faithful are over? I mean, this, to me, there's always been a correlation. The closer you get to death, the more faithful and believing you become. So I am very curious about that.
No, that's absolutely true, and it's not just for Christians and churches. It's true across the board for all faiths. A majority of folks, and it varies depending on the denomination and the faith and the region, but a majority of folks who attend worship on a regular basis in this country are over the age of 60. That has not always been true, but it's been more and more true as baby boomers have aged. Baby boomer generation is sort of the last generation where a majority of folks are attending worship on a regular basis. And so, that's one of the points that Scott Morris made a couple of days ago with the clergy. You know, when you're talking about this disease and the spread of it and who's most vulnerable, it is people over 60 who have other health-related issues. And you're just describing a majority of the folks who attend church. And so it's especially incumbent upon clergy leaders to recognize that and to take action as quickly as they can to try to help their own parishioners.
As we enter, and you just said, when we went on the air today, there were 10 cases. Now there's 30. It's tripled in the last few hours as more and more people are finding out. And we have come to this spike where we are transmitting the disease from within our own county. So it makes sense that this is now starting to occur in bigger numbers. And as you've done your research here, has there been any advice, something that would assure you, that made you feel better, that you've gotten from any of the clergy?
Well, I think the most hopeful thing I heard this week and saw this week was how there is all of a sudden so much interfaith cooperation going on across this community. At this meeting the other day, you not only had Scott Morris and Micah Greenstein of Temple Israel and Stacy Spencer of New Direction, but you had guys like Steve Gaines of Bellevue Baptist, and you had the imam from Memphis Islamic Center, and just a wide range of folks involved in this, and everybody is sort of operating now on the same page. And I think that is remarkable, considering the sort of polarized society we have been operating in the past few years. And if anything, if there's any kind of silver lining, or maybe there are more than one silver lining in this pandemic, it's that what Steve Gaines said the other day at the meeting, the Bellevue Baptist Church said, this is now a time where we've got to put all of that aside. We've got to stop arguing and bickering with each other, politically and otherwise, put all that aside and just work together to deal with this thing right now, because everybody's affected and everybody needs to cooperate and work on this.
He's David Waters. You read him in the Daily Memphian now.
David,
stay healthy.
It was reassuring listening to you.
We need your assurance every day, so please stay healthy.
Real quick, David, you mentioned baseball. Who's your team?
Well, I'm sorry to say, Brett, it's the Cleveland Indians.
Well, you need to be faithful if you're a Cleveland fan.
Yes, I learned have faith a long
That's
time.
right,
I'm a long-suffering fan.
That's right.
It wasn't that bad a couple of years ago. You played the Cubs.
That's right, David.
Come on.
Yeah, well, let's not get into that.
I won't.
It should have gone another way.
You know, I said several years ago that the Cleveland won it with a player manager in Lou Boudreau, and the last time they'd won it before that was with a player manager with Tris Speaker. Maybe they need to have Vizquel be the player manager, and they win it again with him.
Hey, I'm all for that. In fact, you're absolutely right, and I think they'll make Frankie Lindor. Although I love Tito Francona, he's a great guy and a great manager. But if he needs to hang it up, let's bring in Frankie Lindor and let him be the manager.
That's
player.
it.
There you go.
Keep it running.
David, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And that is from a little bit earlier, our friend David Waters, and that was terrific. We hope you found it reassuring, I guess is the best way that I can put it. This portion of the show brought to you by Genesis of Olive Branch. One of my favorite places to go. They have only the best technology when it comes to automobiles because these new Genesis cars, well, they're the best luxury car I think made. I really do. I'd like for you to go find out for yourself. You can test drive them. They have a thing called Flex Drive. You can go there and you can take it for a while and really get to know the car. Get to know my G90. That's the bigger of the Genesis cars. Or you can go for the little rocket ship. It's really a sports car without a back with a back seat. And that's the G70. The one in the middle is the G80. And soon on premises, we hope, will be the SUV. You've already seen the commercials in the Super Bowl. They had what this thing looks like. It is gorgeous. And these cars are safe. And with all that technology, they last forever. That's why you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty on every one of these new Genesis cars. And, of course, the place to buy it is Genesis of Olive Branch. They've only been doing the right things forever. That's why not every Hyundai dealership can sell you a Genesis, but they can here, and they're making it even bigger. They're bringing in more product because these people do car business the right way. Again, go see for yourself. Go chat with my friend, that would be Chris True, and ask about those Genesis cars and tell them we sent you. We're back in a minute with a wrap. Crunch time coming your way in a moment of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Search Sports 56 on Facebook and give us a like. And follow us on Twitter at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Now exclusively at the Home Depot. Give your lawn a 1-2 punch with a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action and save 50% on a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Ultra Feed. Pick up both bags. Apply Triple Action now to knock out tough weeds and Ultra Feed 8 weeks later to green and feed all season. 2 bags. 1 stronger, greener lawn. With a 1-2 punch with Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action and 50% on a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Ultra Feed. Now at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. While supplies last, selection varies by store.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales.
Here once again
are Dave Wolosian and Brad Norsworthy.
Final portion of the week. We could use a couple of days off. Both Brett and I will be back here next Monday, and then hopefully, God willing, we're all healthy. Drew will be on the other side producing, and our goal is to keep doing this as long as we possibly can, and that is the truth. In the meantime, it is time for Crunch Time.
This is Geraldo. It is crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that?
Take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working? It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Woo! Woo! Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food you get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. Learned today it might be the best year ever to have Tommy John surgery. Chris Sale out. Clearly he hadn't been right for most of last year. He says back to the 2018 playoff run. The asterisk year of all time in our lives will be one that for most of us will want to forget, including Chris Sale.
Well, if there were any players and you were picking a season to finally do that surgery that you really needed, this is the one. Here's what I learned today. Since we've been on the air, 14,600 more confirmed coronavirus cases, including in Shelby County. We went from 10 to 30 in the time that we were on the air. Shelby County now triple, as we said, since this morning, and the mayor gave this speech about whether we're going to go on the path of Italy or we're going to go on the path of South Korea. Even Graceland now has closed their doors. Do you realize that Graceland brings in 500 to 750,000 people per year? They were the last of the holdouts. They have closed up. And the final kicker just coming across, we mentioned it a few moments ago, USA Swimming has said to the Olympics, the IOC, we need to wait a year.
Yeah, and I think that will happen. I could have done without all these closings and all these positive tests and all the increase in all the bad numbers. And we got them from sports. We got them from everywhere. California in lockdown, New York soon, Illinois, Chicago about to announce the same practice. Maybe all of us in the near term will have some sacrifice. If we haven't already, we could have more. It could be more than we ever imagined. Already might be that way for a lot of people. Things have really changed. They'll change more. And I wonder if they ever get back to like they were just 15 days ago, 20 days ago, a month ago.
I am truly fearful, honestly, that whatever the new normal is, it will not be like it was. It may get back there again. I'm not going to say it won't. But I don't think it's going to be overnight. We're not going to have everything racing. You know, maybe the markets will go up, but there's going to be so much collateral damage that is done from these next 2 months that our normal will be different than the one it was 2 weeks ago.
As we all know, the markets aren't the indicator for everybody.
No. I guess I could have done without this story, but I do find it fascinating. I was reading a story, and I think it was in the Daily Memphian, or maybe a Commercial Appeal in Ted Evenoff, I'm not sure. But over the last 30 years, our look as a city, our economy has changed. We've lost 20,000 industrial jobs in the last 30 years. But in that time period, we gained 25,000 jobs in the hospitality business, in tourism, hotels, restaurant business. I'm not even counting the 4,000 jobs that we got in Tunica. And isn't there irony to that? Had we had an industrial economy still, it would not be hit as hard as this one is going to be in the modern Memphis.
This has been some hit. This weekend, we'll keep an eye on more pronouncements from sports and otherwise. Second weekend of the sportsless life on Monday. Already on Monday will be day 11, no sports. What if it stretches out to 110 to 130 days? That's middle of July. That wipes out a U.S. Open, British Open, and maybe a World Golf Classic here in most of minor league baseball. And then it'll be knocking on football's doorstep if it gets out to middle of July.
Well, if it's middle of July, I would just think, and I hate this for you because it's a pilgrimage for you every year to go to the SEC Media Days. And I know that is really one of the highlights of your career, of your yearly routine. And if we're still in this, but still have hope for a football season, but it's still mid-July and they're still waiting, I think they're going to cancel SEC Media Days.
I do too.
That's
and right now
in the middle of July.
About the least of my worries.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That is for sure. I will just be looking at this coronavirus dashboard. I may try to go out and play some golf.
You do that.
I think that's sort of the way to go.
Go ahead and womp it around a little
out
bit.
In the open. I won't get any closer than 6 feet to anybody. We'll be just fine.
You won't get close to 6 feet to the pin on any approach shot either. So you'll have that in common.
Well, if it's 7 feet, that's okay. That would still be inside 3 yards.
Call it the leather.
There we go. We got to thank Bruce Marshall for coming on today and TJ Reeves. The good news for his Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got their man. They got Tom Brady. And immediately they went up crazy in ticket sales and concession jersey sales. That's already going to be worth its amount of money. We want to thank David Waters. That was terrific, the insight that he gave us. And again, try to go to Facebook if you are a religious person and you're looking to watch a service, to do something of that kind. Facebook. All these churches are getting together and they will hold their services online with Facebook. We thank Peter Edmiston for his view a lot on how we have to be self-disciplined in this time and stay isolated. And finally, Andy Schiffman in Chicago. We'll see you on Monday. Have a healthy weekend, everybody.
I'm talking now to all you see it to believe it types. The show me, don't tell me sort of folks. You already know the deal with Southland, right? You've seen the ridiculously spacious gaming floor and the thousands of fancy new games? No? Well, close your eyes and just imagine it. Unless you're driving a car. You don't want to close your eyes when you're driving a car. Keep your eyes on the road instead. Make the short drive to Southland.